Hello everyone, and welcome to the DXD Tales. So we are back with an interesting movie on what if Issei was the sage of the digital world, the dragon tamer of Digimon Issei x Kari Kamiya x Rias Gremory, Digimon x DXD. But before we start, I just want to remind you to please subscribe to my channel and hit the like button if you enjoy my content. Let's start the story. Chapter 1. Convergent Destinies. The boundary between worlds shimmered like heat over asphalt as Issei Hyodo slipped through the dimensional tear, digital particles cascading from his shoulders like luminous snow. Behind him, the vibrant landscape of the digital world, with its impossible geography and data-streamed skies, sealed itself shut, replaced by the mundane surroundings of Kuo Town's Central Park. Dawn painted the horizon copper gold, the early hour ensuring his interdimensional transit went unwitnessed. Status report. Draconius, Issei murmured, rolling his shoulders, as his body readjusted to the physical laws of the human realm. A miniature dragon materialized on his shoulder, its scales shifting between crimson and gold in a constant digital flux. Despite being small enough to perch comfortably, the creature radiated ancient power. Boundary integrity at 63% and declining, partner, Draconius replied, voice rumbling with bass notes no creature its size should produce. The anomalies are multiplying exponentially compared to last month's readings. Issei nodded, amber eyes scanning the park with practiced vigilance. At 18, he IED himself with the quiet confidence of someone far older. Years of traversing dimensional boundaries had hardened the soft edges of adolescence, leaving behind a young man whose casual stance belied combat-honed reflexes. His school uniform, the crisp black jacket and pants of Kuo Academy, seemed incongruous with the faint digital circuit patterns occasionally visible beneath his skin when the light caught him at certain angles. The sovereigns are concerned, Draconius continued. Azulongmon believes that the human world isn't the only dimension affected, Issei finished, running a hand through chestnut hair that refused to lie flat. I know. The data patterns match what we saw during the Odaiba convergence 6 years ago, but with supernatural energy signatures I can't identify. A notification chimed from his D-Nexus, a device strapped to his wrist that resembled a watch to uninformed observers but served as his primary interface with digital systems. The holographic display projected a 3-dimensional map of Kuo, red markers pulsing at 7 distinct locations. More tiers forming, he muttered, tapping one marker to expand its data stream. This one's near the old church grounds. Interesting, it's showing both digital and something else. Something ancient. Draconius's eyes narrowed to ruby slits. Devils, or fallen angels. The signature's too corrupted to tell. Issei dismissed the hologram with a flick of his wrist. Either way, it means I'm not the only one aware of these weakening boundaries. The morning breeze carried cherry blossoms across his path as he headed toward Kuo Academy. Despite the dimensional crisis brewing, maintaining his cover as an ordinary student remained crucial. The digital sovereigns had emphasized the importance of his human connections. They anchored him to this world in ways that prevented the digital realm from corrupting his physical form. Your classmates would never believe what you really are, Draconius commented, reading his partner's thoughts as he often did through their bond. The digital sage, chosen protector of the boundary between worlds, reduced to algebra and literature classes. Issei smirked. Don't forget physical education. Coach Hasegawa still can't figure out how I cleared the school's high jump record without formal training. Hard to explain that facing Tyrannomon gives one exceptional reflexes without sounding insane, the dragon quipped before dissolving into pixels that absorbed into Issei's D-Nexus. The academy grounds buzzed with early arrivals, students gathering in lusters to share weekend stories and last-minute homework comparisons. Issei navigated the social landscape with practiced ease. Friendly nods to acquaintances, brief conversations with classmates, all while maintaining the careful distance that prevented anyone from getting close enough to discover his secrets. Hyodo-kun, Ika Kiryu waved from the entrance, her glasses catching the morning light. You missed the study group yesterday. Again, Issei offered an apologetic smile. Family emergency. My grandfather needed help with renovations. The lie flowed easily after years of practice. His grandfather was actually Genai, an ancient digital entity who had guided the first Digidestined and now served as Issei's mentor. The renovations, had been emergency reinforcement of a collapsing boundary in Kyoto's digital overlay. You and your mysterious family emergencies. Aika fell into step beside him. One of these days, I'll find out what you're really up to. No one has any cousins getting married or grandparents needing help as you claim. I'm just a dutiful grandson, he replied with practiced humility that masked how uncomfortably close her teasing struck to the truth. The morning proceeded with mundane predictability, mathematics equations that seemed trivial compared to the algorithmic complexity of digital world physics, literature discussions about symbolic meanings that paled against the prophecies inscribed in the sovereign's temples. Through it all, Issei maintained his role flawlessly, though his attention occasionally drifted to the D-Nexus WHER. Warning indicators continued to accumulate. During lunch break, he isolated himself on the rooftop, expanding the holographic display to analyze the deteriorating patterns. The boundary near the church has degraded another 2%, Draconius noted, rematerializing to study the data alongside his partner. And there's an anomalous energy signature approaching Kuo that doesn't match any known profile. Issei's brow furrowed. Digital or supernatural? Neither. Or both. The wavelengths suggest a harmonized pattern I've never encountered. The rooftop door creaked open before Issei could respond, forcing Draconius to vanish instantly and the hologram to collapse. He turned, expecting a teacher or fellow student, but instead found himself facing a girl he'd never seen before. She stood framed in the doorway. Brown hair cut short around a face that carried both innocence and ancient wisdom in equal measure. Most striking were her eyes, warm amber that matched his own, widening with unmistakable recognition. Around her neck hung a distinctive pink device that sent Issei's pulse racing. A D3 Digivice, older model than his D-Nexus, but unmistakable. You're one of them, she said softly, voice carrying across the rooftop with crystalline clarity. A Digi-destined. Issei remained still, analyzing the newcomer with practiced caution. She wore a different school uniform, Odaiba High, if he recognized the colors correctly. Her stance suggested athletic training, but her aura radiated something he'd only encountered among the most powerful entities of the digital world. Light, pure and undiluted. Not exactly, he finally answered, making no move to approach or retreat. Kari Kamiya, I presume. Bearer of the crest of light. Your reputation precedes you. Surprise flickered across her features before resolving into a cautious smile. And you have me at a disadvantage. Issei Hyodo. He offered a respectful nod rather than a bow. Though in certain circles, I'm known as the digital sage. Quote, recognition sparked in her eyes. The Dragon Tamer. I thought you were just a legend the younger Digi-destined made up, a human who could manifest digital matter without a digivice. In response, Issei extended his hand, palm upward. Digital particles coalesced above his skin, forming a perfect miniature replica of Agumon that glowed with internal light before dissolving back into data streams that absorbed into his fingertips. Not a legend, he said simply. Just someone with a different connection to the digital world than most Digi-destined. Kari approached, caution giving way to professional curiosity. I've been tracking unusual digital anomalies across Japan for months. The pattern led me here, to Kuo. You're sensing the boundary degradation. She nodded. But it's not like anything I've encountered before. These aren't normal tiers between worlds, they're hybridized somehow. As if something is deliberately weaving different dimensional fabrics together. Issei's D-Nexus chimed with sudden urgency, display flashing crimson. Simultaneously, Kari's D3 emitted a series of high-pitched beeps. Both devices projected identical W-arning patterns into the air between them. Breach in progress, Issei translated, already moving toward the rooftop door. Something's coming through, and it's big. Kari matched his pace without hesitation. Where? The old church grounds, northeastern edge of town. The boundary there was already critical. He paused, glancing at her with sudden realization. You came alone. Where's Gatamon? Investigating another anomaly in Shinjuku with Tai and Agumon. Concern flashed across her face. I didn't expect to encounter an actual breach. Issei's expression hardened with decision as they descended the stairs. Then you'll have to trust me. Whatever's coming through, we can't allow it to reach populated areas. They exited the school grounds at a run, Issei leading them through side S. streets and alleyways that provided the most direct route to their destination. The D-Nexus projected navigational markers only he could see, guiding them toward the disturbance. The church grounds are abandoned, he explained between measured breaths. Local superstition keeps people away, but the real reason is that it sits on a dormant sovereign gate, an ancient portal between the digital world and ours. Kari kept pace easily, her own physical conditioning evident. And something's activated it, not activated, corrupted it. Issei's voice dropped. The energy signature isn't pure digital. It's contaminated with something else. They rounded a corner into a residential district when the first tremor shook the ground. Birds erupted from nearby trees, car alarms wailed to life, nth. Air grew heavy with ozone and something else, a sulfurous undertone that burned the back of Issei's throat. Down, he shouted, tackling Kari into the shelter of a stone wall as crimson lightning split the sky directly above them. The discharge struck a telephone pole 20 meters away, wood splintering as the transformer exploded in a shower of sparks and shrapnel. Through the smoke emerged a figure that defied conventional classification, part Digimon, part something else entirely. It resembled a Digimon in basic structure, but its wings dripped with what appeared to be actual blood rather than data particles. Arcane symbols burned across its flesh in patterns Issei recognized from ancient texts describing the supernatural realm. "What is that?" Kari whispered, horror and fascination mingling in her voice. "Trouble," Issei replied grimly, extending his right arm as digital circuits illuminated beneath his skin. Draconius, combat evolution. The D-Nexus flared with blinding lig. HT as his dragon partner materialized, not as the miniature form from earlier but as a massive crimson dragon whose wingspan cast their entire street into shadow. Scaled armor covered its muscular frame, eyes blazing with intelligence and ancient power. A hybrid entity, Draconius growled, voice resonating with bass notes that vibrated the pavement. Digital core, demonic shell. Someone's been experimenting with fusion techniques. The creature's head swiveled toward them, lips peeling back from jagged teeth in a parody of a smile. "Saj," it hissed, voice distorted as if multiple beings spoke simultaneously. "The master warned us about you." Issei stepped forward, placing himself between the creature and Kari. "Who sent you? Who's manipulating the boundaries?" Instead of answering, the hybrid entity unleashed a torrent of corrupted data, not the clean energy attacks of normal Digimon but something putrid and decaying that corroded the physical matter it touched. Asphalt bubbled and melted where the attack struck. "Draco shield," Issei commanded, swiping his hand through a complex pattern. Digital matter condensed into a glowing barrier that absorbed the corruption, filtering and purifying it before dispersing harmlessly. Kari watched with unconcealed amazement. "You can manipulate digital matter directly." "One of the perks of being the sage," Issei replied, "focus you." Wavering as he analyzed the enemy's composition. His eyes tracked data patterns invisible to normal humans, identifying weaknesses in the hybrid structure. "The fusion is unstable, recent and imperfect." "Draconius." The dragon responded instantly to the unspoken strategy, circling behind the creature while Issei maintained its attention. Ancient partnership made words unnecessary. They had fought together across too many battlefields to require verbal coordination. "You're not from around here," Issei addressed the hybrid, fingers tracing patterns in the air that left glowing digital runes. "The digital world has protocols for interdimensional travelers. Enforcement falls to me." The creature laughed, a hollow, broken sound. "Your authority means nothing, sage. The boundaries fall. 3 worlds will become one. And the master's vision will." Its declaration ended abruptly as Draconius struck from behind, claws wreathed in purifying flame that separated digital matter from the corrupting influence. Simultaneously, Issei completed his runic sequence, a binding algorithm that specifically targeted the hybrid's unstable fusion points. "Sovereign protocol. Digital purification," he intoned, voice resonating with authority that transcended his years. Light erupted from his palm, engulfing the creature in a cocoon of swirling data. Within the barrier, digital and supernatural elements separated like oil and water. The hybrid howling as its very essence unwound. The demonic components dissolved first, returning to whatever dimension they originated from, leaving only the corrupted Digimon core. Kari stepped forward, D3 glowing with responsive light. "Allow me," she said quietly, her crest of light manifesting as a ghostly emblem floating before her chest. Light of purification. The warm radiance that emanated from her device washed over the deteriorating Digimon core, cleansing corruption and restoring its fundamental code. What remained was a small, unconscious rookie-level Digimon, an Impmon. Purple fur singed but otherwise intact. Impressive, Issei acknowledged, genuine respect in his tone. The digital sovereigns mentioned your purification abilities, BU. Seeing it firsthand as something else entirely. Kari knelt beside the unconscious Digimon. He's a victim in this, not the perpetrator. Someone corrupted his core data and fused it with, whatever that was. Demonic energy. Came a new voice, cultured and feminine with underlying steel. Both Issei and Kari turned sharply toward the source. Atop a nearby building stood a young woman approximately their age, her crimson hair flowing like liquid flame in the afternoon light. She wore the same Kuo Academy uniform as Issei, but carried herself with aristocratic bearing that marked her as something other than human. Draconius growled, positioning himself protectively near Issei. Devil, he rumbled, threat evident in his tone. The newcomer smiled, unfazed by the massive dragon's hostility. Accurate, if somewhat reductive. Her gaze shifted to Issei, curiosity and calculation evident in striking blue-green eyes. I've been wondering what you were hiding, Hyodo-kun. A digital draw. Gon and interdimensional authority certainly explain your frequent absences from school events. Issei's expression remained neutral though his mind raced. Rias Gremory. I suspected the old church grounds fell under devil territory. But I didn't expect personal attention from the heiress herself. You know who I am, she observed, gracefully descending from the rooftop in a display of supernatural ability that brought her to ground level. The sage's role requires awareness of all dimensional authorities in my jurisdiction, he replied evenly. The Gremory clan controls the supernatural territory overlapping Kuo. Your reputation for fair dealing with other factions preceded you. Something like approval flickered in Rias's expression before her attention shifted to Kari and the unconscious Impmon. A Digi destined as well. This situation grows more intriguing by the moment. Kari rose, meeting the devil's gaze without flinching. Kari Kamiya. And yes, I'm tracking these anomalies across Japan. This is the first hybrid we've encountered. Not the first in Kuo, Rias corrected grimly. My peerage eliminated 3 similar entities last week, though none as powerful as this one. The corruption is spreading. Issei exchanged a meaningful look with Draconius before addressing both women. This area isn't secure for this discussion. The breach remains active, and the hybrid mentioned a master, suggesting more may follow. Rias nodded, business-like efficiency replacing curiosity. My family maintains a secure location nearby. We can continue this conversation there. My queen examines the hybrid's remains for information. Your queen? Kari questioned. Akano Himahima, Issei supplied before Rias could answer. Second in command of the Gremory peerage and lightning specialist. Also our school's idol alongside Gremory-san. Rias raised an elegant eyebrow. Your intelligence gathering is impressive, sage. Just thorough, he responded with a shrug that belied the years of careful observation behind his knowledge. As they prepared to depart, Issei approached the dimensional tear that had allowed the hybrid entry, a jagged wound in reality that shimmered with corrupted data and eldritch energy. He placed his palm against the distortion, digital circuits illuminating along his arm as he applied temporary sealing protocols. I can stabilize it, but not close it completely, he reported. Concern evident in his voice. Whatever caused this is still active on both sides of the boundary. Both sides? Rias questioned sharply. All 3 sides, Issei corrected. Stepping back as the tear stabilized into dormancy. Digital world, human world, and supernatural realm. Someone or something is deliberately weakening the barriers between all 3 dimensions simultaneously. Kari cradled the unconscious Impmon. Why would anyone want to collapse the boundaries between worlds? The consequences would be catastrophic. Power, Rias suggested, eyes darkening. Imagine controlling the unified resources of 3 realms. Or revenge, Draconius rumbled, shrinking to a more manageable size that could perch on Issei's shoulder. Many ancient entities were banished to dimensional prisons during the Great Sovereign War. Issei's expression hardened with resolve. Whatever the motive, as digital sage, interdimensional stability falls under my protection. He turned to Kari. The Digi-Destined should be informed. Your experience with previous crises would be invaluable. And the devil factions need to be alerted as well, Rias added, ALR. Edie producing a communication circle that glowed with arcane symbols. If demonic energy is being weaponized, my brother should know. As Rias completed her communication spell, Issei studied both women with thoughtful consideration. The convergence of digital and supernatural representatives was unprecedented in his experience as sage. That it centered on Kuo, his assigned territory, suggested deeper patterns at work than random boundary degradation. Gremory-san, he began formally, I propose a temporary alliance between your faction, the Digi-Destined, and my authority as sage. This threat crosses all our jurisdictions. Rias considered him with new appreciation, clearly reassessing the quiet classmate she'd previously dismissed as unremarkable. A sensible proposal, sage. Though I admit curiosity about your exact nature. You're clearly human, yet your abilities exceed anything I've encountered outside the supernatural realm. Before Issei could respond, the ground trembled again, more violently than before. The temporarily sealed tear pulsed with renewed energy, cracks spreading outward through reality itself. It's destabilizing, Kari exclaimed as her D3 wailed in warning. Issei moved without hesitation, digital energy coursing through his body as he pressed both hands against the fracturing boundary. Something's forcing it open from the other side, something powerful. Rias summoned crimson destruction energy to her palms. Can you reseal it? Not alone, he grunted, strain evident as sweat beaded on his forehead. The pressure is coming from both the Digita L world and the supernatural realm simultaneously. Draconius roared, expanding to full size again as he added his power to Issei's efforts. The fusion point is critical. If it ruptures completely, then we work together, Kari declared, stepping forward as her crest of light manifested physically before her. She placed her hands beside Issei's on the fracturing boundary, pink energy flowing into the destabilized matrix. Rias joined them without hesitation, her destruction energy carefully modulated to target the corrupted elements without damaging the natural boundary. My brother would never let me hear the end of it if I allowed an interdimensional collapse on my territory, she remarked with forced lightness that masked genuine concern. The combined energies, digital, light, and destruction, created an unexpected resonance that spread through the tear like ripples across water. Where they intersected, new patterns formed, stabilizing the boundary in ways Issei had never witnessed before. It's working, he observed with surprised approval. The energies are compatible. As the boundary stabilized, something unexpected happened. A small object shot through the narrowing AR, a crystalline data core that pulsed with information. It hovered before Issei momentarily before dissolving into his D-Nexus. What was that? Rias demanded, power still crackling around her fingers. Issei's eyes widened as his device processed the incoming data. A message, from Azulongmon, one of the digital sovereigns. His expression grew increasingly troubled as he read the translated information. The digital world is experiencing unprecedented invasion events from the supernatural realm. Entire sectors have fallen to corrupted entities. And the supernatural realm reports similar incursions of digital matter. Rias added grimly, checking her own communication circle. My brother confirms dimensional anomalies throughout the underworld. Kari looked between them, the uncons. Sius Impmon still cradled protectively in her arms. So it's not just our world being affected. All three realms are experiencing boundary failures simultaneously. Coordinated attacks, Draconius concluded, eyes narrowing to ruby slits. Someone wants the boundaries to fall. The temporary seal complete, the three stepped back from the dormant tier. Issei's expression had shifted from concern to resolute as he accessed more information through his D-Nexus. The sovereigns are requesting my immediate presence in the digital world, he stated, already calculating the safest transit point. They've activated emergency protocols I've never seen implemented before. You can't go alone, Kari protested. Not if hybrid entities are waiting on the other side. She's right, Rias agreed, surprising both of them with her immediate support. This clearly affects all three realms. Representatives from each should investigate together. Issei studied both women, seeing determination in their expressions that mirrored his own. As sage, he was accustomed to operating independently, serving as the solitary bridge between worlds. The prospect of allies, powerful ones from different factions, was both novel and strangely reassuring. The Sovereign Council won't appreciate uninvited guests, Draconius warned, though without much conviction. They'll adapt, Issei replied with unexpected firmness. This crisis changes everything. He turned to his new allies. I accept your assistance, but understand what you're volunteering for. The digital world operates under different physical laws than either of your native realms. Your powers may function differently there. Rias smiled, a hint of excitement breaking through her composed exterior. I've always wanted to explore beyond the boundaries of the supernatural realm. My brother will be positively green with envy. I've been navigating the digital world since I was 8 years old, Kari reminded him gently. Though I admit, I'm curious to see it through the eyes of the digital sage. Decision made, Issei extended his right hand, digital circuitry illuminating beneath his skin as he prepared to create a stable transit portal. We leave in 1 hour. Meet me at Kuo Academy's eastern gate. Bring only what you can carry, and be prepared for anything. As the women departed to make their preparations, Rias taking the unconscious Impmon for examination by her peerage, Issei remained at the site of the breach, running additional diagnostics through his D-Nexus. You're taking a significant risk, partner, Draconius observed quietly. The Sovereigns designated you as a solitary agent for good reason. Humans with power tend to desire more of it, and the digital world contains power in abundance. These aren't ordinary humans, Issei countered, studying the complex data patterns flowing across his display. Kari Kamiya's connection to the forces of light makes her uniquely suited to counter corruption. And Rias Gremory, as a devil, Draconius finished bluntly, a being whose nature is fundamentally tied to concepts of dominion and control. Issei looked up from his work, meeting his partner's concerned gaze. Yes, but she's also someone who came to help without hesitation when her territory was threatened. Actions reveal character more reliably than species, old friend. The dragon rumbled thoughtfully. Your instincts have rarely led us astray. I hope they remain true now, when the stakes involve all 3 worlds. As the sun began its westward descent, casting long shadows across the abandoned church grounds, Issei completed his analysis of the breach. The results confirmed his worst fears: systematic degradation of interdimensional barriers following precise mathematical patterns that suggested intelligent direction rather than natural deterioration. Someone very powerful and very knowledgeable is orchestrating this, he concluded, storing the findings in his D-Nexus for presentation to the Sovereign Council. The question is, what could possibly be worth risking the catastrophic collapse of 3 distinct dimensional realities? With no immediate answer forthcoming, Issei turned toward Kuo Academy, mind already formulating contingency plans and diplomatic approaches for introducing his unexpected allies to the digital sovereigns. As digital sage, he had always stood as a solitary guardian at the crossroads between worlds. Now, facing an unprecedented crisis, he found himself becoming something new, a leader uniting disparate forces against a common threat. The irony wasn't lost on him. For years, he had carefully maintained separation between his roles as ordinary student and interdimensional protector. Now, in the span of a single afternoon, those carefully constructed boundaries had collapsed as thoroughly as the dimensional walls themselves. As he walked, digital circuits occasionally pulsed beneath his skin, a visible reminder of the unique power that set him apart from both humans and digi-destined. The Dragon Sage's legacy was one of solitary responsibility, yet instinct told him this crisis would require something different. Convergent destinies, indeed. Chapter 1 End Chapter 2, Legacy of Light and Shadow. Moonlight filtered through ancient maple trees surrounding the Gremory estate on the outskirts of Kuo town. The property existed simultaneously in the human world and a pocket dimension of the supernatural realm, an architectural impossibility that nonetheless appeared as a perfectly ordinary Japanese mansion to uninformed passers-by. Inside the estate's central study, Issei sat cross-legged on a cushion, digital displays hovering around him like luminous butterflies. Each projection contained fragments of data collected from the hybrid entity they'd encountered. Opposite him, Kari knelt beside the recovering Impmon, who slept peacefully on a small futon, occasionally mumbling in his dreams. The corruption penetrated to the core of his digital matrix. Kari observed, her voice soft with concern. I've never seen anything manipulate a Digimon's base code like this. Issei nodded, manipulating one of the displays to enhance a particular data strand. It's not just corruption, it's transformation. Someone rewrote fundamental aspects of his digital DNA to accept supernatural energy integration. Is that even possible? Kari looked up, amber eyes reflecting the glow of the data screens. It shouldn't be, Issei replied grimly. The digital world operates on completely different physical laws than the supernatural realm. It's like trying to run software designed for quantum computers on antique mechanical calculators. The door slid open as Rias entered, accompanied by a striking young woman with long black hair tied in a ponytail. Both carried trays of tea and refreshments. Where Rias radiated aristocratic confidence, her companion moved with elegant precision that couldn't quite mask the predatory awareness in her violet eyes. Apologies for the wait, Rias said, setting her tray on the low table at the center of the room. I thought you might appreciate refreshments before we dive deeper into interdimensional catastrophes. The dark-haired woman placed her tray beside Rias's, then straightened, studying the digital displays with unconcealed skepticism. So these are the digital entities you mentioned. They look like glorified light shows to me. Akeno, Rias chided gently. Akeno Himahima, Issei acknowledged with a respectful nod. Queen of the Gremory peerage and lightning specialist. Your reputation in Kuo Academy is quite impressive. A flicker of surprise crossed Akeno's features before her lips curved into a practiced smile that didn't reach her eyes. Era, how flattering. To be recognized by the mysterious transfer student. Though I don't recall ever speaking with you before today. We haven't spoken, Issei confirmed without elaboration, turning his attention back to the data displays. Kari rose, approaching the newcomers with quiet dignity. Thank you for your hospitality, Gremory-san. I'm Kari Kamiya, the Digi-destined of light, Rias nodded. Your brother, Tai is something of a legend even in certain circles of the supernatural realm. Kari's eyebrows rose. The supernatural world knows about Digi-destined. We make it our business to know about all significant power players across dimensions, Rias replied, pouring tea with practiced grace. Though I admit, the digital world remains largely mysterious to us. Our attempts to establish formal diplomatic relations have been unsuccessful. The sovereigns are cautious about external influences, Issei explained, dismissing the data displays with a gesture and joining them at the table. Aft, are the Dark Masters incident and several subsequent invasions, isolationist policies prevailed. Akeno settled beside Rias, violet eyes fixed on Issei with undisguised suspicion. And yet they appointed a human as their representative. How convenient. Rather than taking offense, Issei met her gaze directly. The sage isn't a representative. I'm a guardian of boundaries and balance, appointed by M. Mutual agreement between the sovereigns and certain human authorities. Authorities? Kari questioned, accepting a teacup from Rias. I wasn't aware any human governments officially acknowledge the digital world. They don't. Publicly. Issei clarified, steam from his tea momentarily obscuring his expression. But after the Odaiba incident and subsequent digital phenomena worldwide, certain agencies established classified protocols. My position operates under their radar but with tacit approval. Rias leaned forward, crimson hair spilling over one shoulder. Fascinating. But perhaps we should focus on the immediate crisis. You mentioned the sovereigns activated emergency protocols. Issei nodded, retrieving his D-Nexus. The device projected a three-dimensional map of layered realities, human world, digital world, and supernatural realm represented as intertwined but distinct dimensional planes. For the past 6 months, I've been tracking anomalies along boundary regions, he explained, highlighting dozens of pulsing red markers. Initially, they appeared random, natural fluctuations in dimensional barriers. 3 weeks ago, the pattern changed. The projection shifted, red maw, RKERS rearranging into distinct geometric configurations. They're forming summoning arrays, Akeno observed, professional interest overriding her skepticism. Similar to devil teleportation circles, Rias agreed, eyes narrowing. But the configurations are ancient, predating modern devil society. And they align perfectly with the digital world's sacred terminals, Kari added, recognition dawning in her expression. The places where the digital world's core systems manifest physically. Issei nodded grimly. Someone is systematically targeting convergence points. locations where all three realms naturally intersect. Today's breach was just one node in a much larger pattern. Which explains why I was sent here, Kari said, pieces falling into place. Genai contacted me last month about unusual energy readings in Kuo. But he didn't mention you were already stationed here. Genai knows better than to reveal the sage's location, even to Digi-Destined, Issei replied. My effectiveness depends partly on anonymity. Anonymity now thoroughly compromised, Draconius commented dryly, materializing on Issei's shoulder in his miniature form. The tiny dragon regarded the assembled company with ancient eyes that betrayed none of his partner's diplomacy. Akeno tensed at the dragon's sudden appearance, electricity crackling subtly around her fingertips. Peace, Himahima-san, Issei said quietly. Draconius is bound to me through the sage protocols. He poses no threat to your territory. Unless provoked, the dragon added, smoke curling from his nostrils. Rias cleared her throat delicately. Perhaps this is a good time for you to explain exactly what the digital sage is, Hyodo-kun. The term doesn't appear in any devil records of Accessed. Issei exchanged a glance with Kari, who nodded encouragingly. With a sigh, he set down his teacup and straightened his posture. To understand the sage, you need to understand how I first encountered the digital world, he began, eyes distant with memory. Unlike the Digi-Destined who were chosen and called, I stumbled in. 10 years earlier, 8-year-old Issei Hyodo crouched beside the small creek that ran behind his family's modest home. Fascinated by the tiny fish darting between submerged stones. Summer vacation had just begun, promising endless days of exploration and adventure before the constraints of third grade resumed in autumn. Bet I can catch one with my hands, he muttered to himself, rolling up his sleeves and slowly lowering his fingers toward the water's surface. The creek suddenly shimmered, ripples forming perfect concentric circles that defied the natural current. Issei froze, childish wonder replacing his focus on the fish as the water began to glow with internal light. Reflected in the luminous surface was not his own face but an impossible landscape, floating islands, inverted mountains, and skies streaked with streams of visible data. Curiosity overcoming caution, Issei reached toward the glowing water. His fingertips brushed the surface, expecting wetness but finding instead a curious tingling sensation like static electricity. The water parted around his hand without resistance, as though he were reaching through a projection rather than physical matter. Whoa, he breathed, pushing his arm further into the phenomenon. The tingling sensation spread up his arm, digital patterns momentarily visible beneath his skin. Without warning, the creek surged upward, water forming a perfect arch that engulfed the startled boy. There was a moment of disorientation, weightlessness combined with the sensation of being pulled in multiple directions simultaneously, before Issei found himself sprawled on vibrant green grass beneath an impossible sky where constellations were visible despite the brilliant daylight. You're not supposed to be here, came a voice like grinding stone. Issei scrambled to his feet, turning to find himself facing an enormous serpentine dragon that coiled through the air as if gravity were merely a suggestion. Azure scales shimmered with embedded digital runes, and a noble mane of white hair framed an ancient face marked with wisdom and power. Chains of pure digital energy encircled its massive form, each link inscribed with symbols that constantly shifted and rearranged. I'm sorry, Issei stammered, awestruck rather than terrified. I was just trying to catch fish. The dragon's eyes, pools of luminous data rather than physical organs, narrowed thoughtfully. A natural crossing. Interesting. The boundaries weren't manipulated, you simply had the affinity to pass through. Am I in trouble? Issei asked, his 8-year-old mind struggling to process the situation but adapting with remarkable resilience. The dragon made a sound that might have been laughter, like distant thunder over mountains. Not trouble, young one. But you have inadvertently walked a path few humans ever discover. It lowered its massive head until it was level with the boy. I am Azulongmon, sovereign of the eastern quadrant of the digital world. And you are Issei Hyodo, he replied with automatic politeness, bowing as his parents had taught him. It's nice to meet you, Mr. Dragon. This time Azulongmon definitely laughed, the sound causing ripples in reality around them. Well-mannered for one so young. Tell me, Issei Hyodo, can you see the patterns in the air around us? Issei looked up, noticing for the first time the streams of code flowing through the atmosphere like luminous rivers. The shiny lines. Yeah, they're everywhere. Fascinating. Azulongmon murmured. A natural affinity indeed. Most humans require devices to perceive digital matter. The great dragon seemed to come to a decision. Come with me, young one. There are others who should meet you before we return you to your world. There are more dragons? Issei asked, excitement overriding any lingering apprehension. Dragons, and many other beings, Azulongmon confirmed, lowering a section of his enormous body to the ground. Climb aboard, if you would. We have some distance to travel. Without hesitation, Issei clambered onto the offered coils, finding the digital scales warm and surprisingly comfortable. As Azulongmon rose into the air, the boy laughed with delight, all thoughts of fish and creeks forgotten in the wonder of soaring through the digital world's impossible landscape. What is this place, really? Issei asked as they passed floating islands where massive gears turned in synchronization with no apparent mechanism. This is the digital world, a dimension formed from the accumulated data of your world, given life and substance through processes even we sovereigns don't fully understand, Azulongmon explained. It exists parallel to your reality, occasionally intersecting at thin points in the dimensional barriers. Like my creek, precisely. Though such natural crossings are increasingly rare. The dragon's voice grew thoughtful. In recent years, humans have required specialized devices to access our realm, digivices granted to chosen children. Issei's brow furrowed. But I don't have a digivice. No, Azulongmon agreed. You have something potentially more significant, a natural affinity for digital matter. I can see it in your very essence, young one. Your human DNA carries unusual patterns, almost as if. The dragon fell silent, lost in ancient calculations as they approached a massive temple complex suspended in the sky. 5 enormous structures arranged in a perfect pentagon, each reflecting the elemental nature of its respective sovereign. We have arrived at the Sovereign Council, Azulongmon announced as they descended toward the central courtyard. Be respectful, speak truthfully, and do not be afraid. The others may seem intimidating, but none will harm you. Issei nodded solemnly, suddenly aware of the enormity of his situation as 4 additional massive Digimon emerged from their respective temples. Baihuman, the white tiger sovereign of the west. Zuchauman, the vermilion bird sovereign of the south. Ebenwuman, the 2-headed turtle sovereign of the north. And at the center, dwarfing even the enormous cardinal sovereigns, Fanglongmon, the golden dragon emperor who ruled the digital world's core. Azulongmon, rumbled Fanglongmon, voice resonating with such power that Issei felt it in his bones. Why have you brought a human child to the sacred council? This child crossed the boundary without assistance or technology, Azulongmon replied, lowering Issei gently to the courtyard floor. And he can perceive digital matter without interfaces. A murmur of surprise passed through the assembled sovereigns. Impossible, hissed Zuchauman, fiery wings spreading with agitation. No human possesses such capabilities naturally. See for yourself, Azulongmon suggested. Issei, can you describe what you see flowing between Baihuman and Ebenwuman? The boy squinted, focusing on the space between the tiger and turtle sovereigns. There's a stream of blue light, it's made up of little symbols that keep changing. And it's connecting to both of them through, I think they're ports, like on my dad's computer. Silence fell over the council. He sees the synchronization protocols, Ebenwuman's left head said in astonishment, Irish accent thick with surprise. Indeed he does, agreed the right head. A remarkable wee lad. Fanglongmon lowered his massive head, golden scales shimmering with embedded digicores as he studied Issei with ancient eyes. There is something familiar about this child's energy signature, the Emperor observed. A resonance I have not felt since the original Dragon Tamer, Azulongmon finished quietly. Approach, child, Fanglongmon commanded, voice gentler now. Heart pounding but curiosity stronger than fear, Issei walked forward until he stood directly before the enormous golden dragon. Fanglongmon extended one massive claw, a single point hovering over Issei's chest. With your permission, young one, I would examine your core data. Not entirely understanding but somehow trusting the ancient being, Issei nodded. Okay. A beam of golden light connected Fanglongmon's claw to Issei's chest, lifting the boy several inches off the ground. Rather than pain, Issei felt a curious warmth spreading through his body. as if he were being scanned from the inside out. By the catalysts, Fanglongmon breathed, the closest a sovereign could come to showing shock. It is true. The Dragon Tamer's data signature. Reborn in human form. The light faded, and Issei settled gently back to the ground, blinking in confusion. What does that mean? It means, Issei Hyodo, Fanglongmon explained with surprising tenderness, that you carry within you the digital essence of one who helped create this world. The first human to bond with digital dragons and establish harmony between our realms. I thought the Digi-Destined were the first humans in the digital world, Issei said, recalling news reports he'd half understood about strange events in Odaiba the previous year. They were the first in living memory. Azulongmon corrected. But long before, when the digital world was newly formed, a single human found his way here, much as you did. He became known as the Dragon Tamer, and later, the first digital sage. His wisdom helped establish the foundational protocols that still govern our world, Fanglongmon continued. When darkness threatened to consume the fledgling digital world, he created the first partner bond with a Dragon Digimon, establishing a template for the partner relationships that Digi-Destined now experience. So, I'm like him? Issei asked, struggling to comprehend. You carry his digital signature, reborn after countless cycles, Fanglongmon confirmed. It explains your natural ability to cross boundaries and perceive digital matter. What happened to him? Issei's natural curiosity pushed through his confusion. The sovereigns exchanged looks of ancient sorrow. He sacrificed himself to seal a great darkness, Baihuman answered finally. His data was thought lost forever. Until now, Zuchowman added, hostility replaced by reluctant wonder. Fanglongmon's expression grew solemn. Issei Hyodo, your arrival here cannot be coincidence. The barriers between worlds have grown increasingly unstable in recent months. The Digi-Destined address symptoms, but deeper imbalances remain. The old protocols call for a sage when boundaries are threatened. Ebonwoman's right head noted. He is but a child, Azulongmon cautioned. As were the Digi-Destined when first called, Fanglongmon countered. And this one has advantages they did not, an inherent connection to digital matter and the reborn signature of the original sage. The Golden Dragon turned his attention back to Issei. Young one, I cannot and would not force this legacy upon you. The path of the sage is one of great responsibility. But should you choose to accept it, we would guide you, train you in the ways of digital manipulation and boundary maintenance. Issei's 8-year-old mind struggled with the enormity of what was being proposed, but something deep within him resonated with Fanglongmon's words. The streams of code flowing through the air suddenly seemed to make intuitive sense. As if he were remembering rather than learning. Would I get to come back here? He asked finally. And learn about dragons. Fanglongmon's rumbling laugh shook the courtyard. Yes, young one, you would become a frequent visitor to our realm and learn far more than just dragons. And I could still go home. See my mom and dad. Of course, Azulongmon assured him. The sage walks between worlds. Belonging to both yet bound exclusively to neither. Issei considered this with all the solemnity an 8-year-old could muster. Finally, he nodded decisively. I want to learn. I want to help. Then it is decided, Fanglongmon declared. Issei Hyodo shall be trained as the new digital sage. Azulongmon, as he discovered the boy, the primary responsibility for his training falls to your quadrant. I accept this honor. Azulongmon bowed his massive head. The boy will need a partner, Baihuman noted. A digital companion suited to the sage's role. I have. He already sensed one stirring in the primary village, Azulongmon replied. A dragon egg that began glowing the moment the boy crossed the boundary. Fanglongmon nodded in satisfaction. It seems the old patterns reassert themselves. Take the boy to meet his partner, then return him to his world. His training should begin gradually. He must maintain his human connections even as he learns his digital responsibilities. As the council concluded, Issei found himself once again riding Azulongmon's coils through the digital world's extraordinary landscape, mind buzzing with everything he'd learned. Am I going to meet my own dragon now? He asked, excitement temporarily overshadowing the enormity of what had transpired. Indeed, Azulongmon replied, amusement evident in his tone. Though remember, young sage, digital partners are not possessions but equals. The bond you form will be one of mutual respect and growth. They descended toward a valley filled with colorful eggs nestled in soft grasses. At the center, separated from the others, hovered a crimson egg marked with gold sigils that pulsed with internal light. "This one has waited a very long time for you," Azulongmon observed as they landed. Drawn by instinct, Issei approached the floating egg. The moment his fingertips brushed its surface, the sigils flared brilliantly, and the egg dissolved into streams of data that flowed into Issei's outstretched hands. Reforming as a small red dragon with golden eyes. "Hello, partner," the creature said, voice containing wisdom that belied its infant form. "I am Draconius. I've been waiting for you. From that day forward, I began training as the digital sage," Issei concluded, returning to the present moment in the Gremory estate. "Learning to manipulate digital matter, maintain boundaries between worlds, and uphold the balance established by the original sage." Silence followed his account, broken only by the soft crackling of the fireplace. "That explains your unusual energy signature," Rias observed finally. "I've been trying to categorize it since we met. Not quite human, not fully digital." Kari leaned forward, fascination evident in her expression. "So that's why Genai always spoke of you with such reverence. The sage stands apart from even the digi-destined." "Different role, different responsibilities," Issei corrected gently. "Digi-destined champions who address crises as they emerge. The sage's purpose is preventative, maintaining boundaries to stop crises before they begin. Yet here we are," Akeno noted dryly, "facing a crisis that has already begun." "Yes," Issei acknowledged, expression hardening. "One that may have been developing for years beneath my notice. The systematic targeting of convergence points across all three realms suggests extensive planning and resources." "Which brings us to our immediate problem," Rias interjected, businesslike efficiency returning. "The breach at the old church grounds is stable for now. But you indicated the sovereigns expect you in the digital world immediately." Issei nodded. "They've activated protocols I've never seen implemented before. Whatever information they have must be significant." "Then we should depart as soon as possible," Kari declared, determination evident in her posture. "The digi-destined should be informed as well." "I agree about departing," Issei said carefully. "But I recommend caution regarding wider notification. Until we understand the nature and scope of the threat, involving too many parties could complicate matters." Rias raised an elegant eyebrow. "You don't trust the other digi-destined." "It's not about trust," Issei clarified. "It's about information security. Whoever is orchestrating these breaches has demonstrated sophisticated knowledge of all three realms. They may be monitoring conventional communication channels." "A valid concern," Rias conceded. "Though my peerage should be informed of my temporary absence." "As should my brother," Kari added. "Tai has experience with world-threatening crises, and his discretion is absolute." Issei considered this, exchanging a glance with Draconius, who had remained silently observant throughout the discussion. The dragon gave an almost imperceptible nod. "Agreed," Issei decided. "Minimal notifications to essential allies only. We'll depart at dawn from a secure access point I maintain beneath Kuo Academy." Akeno's eyes narrowed with sudden suspicion. "You've established a permanent digital portal beneath our school, without the knowledge of the territory's rightful overseer." "The sage's authority regarding dimensional boundaries supersedes territorial claims," Draconius stated flatly, speaking for the first time since Issei's narrative began. "It was established with full compliance to supernatural non-interference protocols." Before Akeno could respond, Rias placed a calming hand on her queen's arm. "Peace, Akeno. If Hyodo-kun had harmful intentions, he's had years to act on them." She turned to Issei with newfound respect. "Though I admit being outmaneuvered in my own territory is humbling." "It wasn't personal," Issei assured her. "Kuo sits at a natural convergence point between realms. The academy was built directly over an ancient nexus, probably why your family selected it as devil territory in the first place." Rias's expression confirmed his speculation. "My brother mentioned favorable dimensional geometry when establishing our base here. I assumed it was related to ley lines." "Similar concept, different energy type," Issei explained. "The nexus predates human civilization, possibly even the digital world itself." Kari had been quietly studying the digital displays Issei had dismissed earlier. "May I?" she asked, gesturing toward them. At Issei's nod, she made a graceful gesture with her D3, reactivating the suspended data. There's something familiar about these corruption patterns. During our final battle with Malo Myotisman, we encountered similar code degradation when he attempted to breach the barrier between worlds. Malo Myotisman was destroyed, Issei noted, rising to examine the displays alongside her. Completely, Kari confirmed, but his methods for dimensional manipulation were recorded in Genai's archives. Someone could have accessed that knowledge, or independently developed similar techniques, Rias suggested. Many ancient devil families experimented with dimensional travel before the Great War led to the current restrictions. Issei's expression grew troubled as he manipulated the data streams. The corruption signatures contain elements of both, yet neither fully matches existing patterns. It's as if someone combined methodologies from different realms, which should be theoretically impossible. Draconius added, the fundamental energies are incompatible. Unless, Issei's eyes widened with sudden realization. Unless they had access to a convergence point where he natural laws of all three realms intersect. Like the nexus beneath Kuo Academy, Rias concluded, following his logic. Or a dozen others have been monitoring, Issei confirmed grimly. Each owing subtle signs of tampering that I attributed to natural fluctuation. Kari's face paled. If someone has been systematically studying convergence points, learning how to manipulate the barriers between worlds, they could potentially control the flow of energy and matter between dimensions, Rias finished, aristocratic composure momentarily shaken. Akeno, who had been silently observing the discussion, suddenly straightened. The hybrid we encountered, it wasn't just a foot soldier, was it? It was an experiment. Issei nodded, respect flickering in his expression at her insight. A prototype, testing the viability of combining entities from different realms. Its instability suggests they haven't perfected the process yet, which gives us a potential advantage, Rias noted, strategic mind engaging. If we can reach the digital world and consult with the sovereigns before they progress to the next stage. A tremendous crash from outside interrupted her, followed by a pressu wave that rattled the windows of the estate. Rias's communication circle flared to life instantly, projecting the image of a young man with short blonde hair and aristocratic features. Bushu, the young man exclaimed, voice tight with urgency. Multiple energy signatures approaching the estate, not devils or fallen angels. There, I don't know what they are. Kiba, Rias addressed him calmly despite the alarming news. Defensive formation. Protect the perimeter but do not engage directly. We'll join you momentarily. As the communication ended, Issei was already moving toward the window, D-Nexus active and scanning. 6 entities approaching from the northwest. Hybrid signatures similar to what we encountered earlier but more stable, second-generation prototypes, if I had to guess. Kari joined him, D3 glowing with responsive light. They're tracking us, specifically us. Logical assumption, Draconius agreed, expanding to his combat form in a flare of digital energy that illuminated the room. The Sage, a Digi-Destined, and the Devil Territorial Overseer, 3 representatives of the worlds they seek to merge. Perfect targets for field testing improved hybrids, Akeno concluded. Lightning already crackling around her fingers as her devil wings manifested. They're assessing their creations, combat effectiveness against prime specimens. Then let's disappoint them, Rias declared. Her own power flaring as crimson destruction energy gathered around her hands. Akeno, aerial support, I'll coordinate with Kiba and the others on the ground. Wait, Issei interjected, studying his D-Nexus display with growing concern. These readings, they're not just testing combat capabilities. The hybrids are carrying something. Before he could elaborate, a piercing sound cut through the night, a harmonic frequency that transcended normal auditory range. Issei, Kari, and Rias simultaneously clutched their heads in pain as the sound resonated through their very beings. Dimensional resonance generator, Issei gasped, digital circuits flaring beneath his skin as he attempted to shield himself. They're trying to force a localized merger. Through the window, the night sky distorted as reality itself began to warp. The grounds of the Gremory estate flickered, momentarily overlaid with sections of barren digital landscape and the crimson-tinged architecture of the supernatural realm. They're using us as catalysts, Kari realized, her crest of light manifesting involuntarily in response to the dimensional stress. Our connections to our respective world. DS. They're trying to create a fusion point. Rias's eyes widened with understanding. The attack on the church grounds. It wasn't just a test, it was bait to draw us together. Issei made a split-second decision. Golden energy surging around his form as he activated protocols he'd held in reserve. Sovereign override. Emergency translocation. Digital matter erupted from his D-nexus, enveloping all four of them, Issei, Kari, Rias, and Akeno, in a protective cocoon of stabilized data. The dimensional pressures outside intensified, hybrids converging on the estate as reality continued to fracture around them. "What are you doing?" Akeno demanded, lightning arcing defensively around her form. "Emergency extraction," Issei replied, concentration evident as sweat beaded on his forehead. "They, reusing our unique signatures to force dimensional convergence. If we remain, the estate will become ground zero for a catastrophic merger." "My peerage," Rias began, concern overriding everything else. "We'll be safer without us here," Issei finished grimly. "Trust me, Gremory-san. This isn't my first extraction." The cocoon of digital energy compressed around them as dimensional coordinates locked into Issei's D-nexus. Outside, they caught glimpses of the hybrids, humanoid figures with corrupted digital components fused to supernatural anatomies, surrounding the estate with devices that pulsed with malevolent energy. "Hold on," Issei warned as final calculations completed. "Digital transit is disorienting for first-timers." Reality compressed, expanded, and twisted as the extraction protocol activated. The last thing they saw before dimensional transit engulfed them was the leader of the hybrid attackers, a tall figure whose face remained hidden beneath a hood, but whose posture conveyed furious recognition as their prey escaped. Then everything dissolved into streams of data, the physical world replaced by the rushing torrent of the digital transit stream. Through it all, Issei maintained the integrity of their protective cocoon, guiding them not toward the digital world as originally planned, but toward another destination entirely. When reality reformed around them, they stood upon a mountain peak overlooking a vast expanse of pristine wilderness. Ancient stone markers surrounded them in a perfect circle, each inscribed with symbols that bridged digital and supernatural languages. "Where are we?" Kari asked, recovering first from the disorienting transit. "Sanctuary Point," Issei replied, dropping to one knee as the energy expenditure took its toll. "A convergence site I stabilized years ago. One of the few that hasn't shown signs of tampering." Draconius, who had maintained his larger form through the transit, moved protectively to Issei's side. Emergency protocols drained your reserves significantly, partner." "Worth it," Issei responded, accepting Kari's offered hand to rise. The alternative was becoming catalysts for forced dimensional merger. Rias surveyed their surroundings with appraising eyes. "This isn't the digital world." "No," Issei confirmed. "We're still in the human realm, but at a natural convergence point where the barriers are thin. From here, we can access either the digital world or the supernatural realm with minimal energy expenditure." Akeno moved to the edge of the circle, examining the ancient markers. "These inscriptions, they're older than any devil language I recognize. They predate the separation of the three realms," Issei explained, regaining his strength. "From what the sovereigns have pieced together, there was a time when digital, physical, and supernatural existed as a single integrated reality." Before the sundering, Kari murmured, recognition in her eyes. "Genai mentioned it once, a prehistoric event that separated what was once unified." Issei nodded. "These sanctuary points preserve that original harmony. Here, all three types of energy can coexist without corruption or degradation. Which explains why our pursuers haven't discovered it," Rias deduced. "They're looking for points they can corrupt, not ones naturally resistant to tampering." "Precisely." Issei approached the center of the circle where a distinctive marker rose higher than the others. "From here, we can regroup, contact your peerage to ensure their safety, and plan our next move." As the group gathered around the central marker, Issei placed his palm against its ancient surface. Digital circuits illuminated beneath his skin, interfacing with the stone as if it were an advanced computer terminal. "Dimensional integrity analysis," he commanded softly. The stone responded, glowing symbols rising from its surface to form a three-dimensional map similar to what he had shown them at the estate, but far more detailed. The patterns of degradation were immediately obvious, systematic failures along boundary regions connecting all three worlds. It's worse than I feared, Issei observed grimly. The deterioration is accelerating exponentially. According to these readings, we have perhaps 3 days before critical boundaries fail completely. 3 days until what, exactly? Akano asked, professional concern overriding her earlier suspicion. Until the barriers between worlds become too weak to maintain separation, Issei explained, resulting in cascading dimensional collapse. Sections of all three realms merging chaotically with catastrophic consequences for all inhabitants. Could that be their goal? Rias wondered, studying the projection with growing horror. Deliberate dimensional collapse. If so, they're either insane or possess knowledge we don't, Draconius rumbled. No being from any realm could survive the uncontrolled merger of fundamental realities. Ari had moved to the eastern edge of the circle, her D3 raised toward the horizon where the first hints of dawn were appearing. I'm getting a response from the digital world, she reported. Distorted, but recognizable. Issei joined her, interfacing his D-Nexus with her Digivice. The combined devices projected a corrupted image, Genai, the digital entity who had guided generations of Digi-Destined. His form flickering with interference. Under attack. Sovereigns, primary containment failing, ancient enemy, seek the sacred site. The transmission dissolved into unintelligible static before cutting out completely. Genai, Kari whispered, concern evident in her voice. Something's happening in the digital world right now. The sacred site, Issei repeated, a cold realization settling over him. He must mean the Temple of Convergence, the oldest structure in the digital world, predating even the sovereigns themselves. You know this place? Rias asked. Issei nodded slowly. I've studied it, but never visited personally. The sovereigns maintain a permanent guard around it. According to ancient records, it contains knowledge from before the Sundering, including, potentially, how the three realms were originally separated, which would also reveal how they could be merged again, Akano concluded, the implications dawning in her expression. If Genai is directing us there while under attack, Kari didn't need to finish the thought. Then our enemies may already be making their move on the temple, Issei finished grimly. We need to get to the digital world immediately. Rias stepped forward, regal authority in her bearing. First, I must ensure my peerage's safety. They were targets only because of their connection to me. Agreed, Issei said without hesitation. This sanctuary allows secure communication with all three realms. He guided her to a smaller stone at the western edge of the circle, showing her how to channel her energy into it. Focus on the one you wish to contact. The sanctuary will establish a secure connection regardless of dimensional barriers. While Rias communicated with her peerage, confirming they had successful. Lee repelled the attack after the hybrids lost interest following the group's disappearance. Kari approached Issei with quiet determination. I need to contact Tai, she stated simply. If the digital world is under direct attack, the Digi-Destined need to be mobilized. Issei considered this request carefully, weighing operational security against the potential advantages of Digi-Destined reinforcements. After a moment, he nodded. Use the eastern marker, he directed. But be cautious with specifics. If our enemies are monitoring digital communications, we don't want to reveal our destination or knowledge. As both women established their communications, Issei turned his attention to final preparations. From his D-Nexus, he extracted several small devices, each pulsing with contained digital energy. Dimensional stabilizers, he explained when Akano approached with undisguised curiosity. They'll help maintain our physical integrity when crossing between realms. You've prepared extensively for this scenario, she observed, not quite a compliment but lacking her earlier hostility. The sage's primary function is preparation for boundary crises, Issei replied simply. Though I admit, nothing in my training covered a deliberate attempt to merge all three realms simultaneously. Akano studied him with those penetrating violet eyes. You're not what I expected, Hyodo Issei. Few people are exactly what we expect them to be, Himahima-san, he replied quietly. Appearances rarely capture true nature, something I suspect you understand better than most. A flicker of surprise crossed her features before her customary mask returned. Careful, sage, you're bordering on presumption. Observation, not presumption, he corrected gently. Your lightning techniques rai traces of holy energy despite your devil wings. Such duality suggests a complex heritage. Instead of taking offense, Akino's lips curved into a more genuine smile than any she'd shown previously. Perhaps I underestimated your perceptiveness. Though I wonder what other secrets you've discerned while maintaining your unassuming student facade. Enough to admire your strength, Issei answered honestly. Reconciling opposing natures requires remarkable fortitude. Whatever response Akino might have offered was interrupted as Rias and Kari returned from their respective communications. My peerage is secure, Rias reported. They've established defensive wards around the estate and will maintain vigilance until our return. Tai and the others are investigating similar anomalies in Odaiba, Kari added. They'll focus on protecting our world's side of the dimensional boundaries while we explore the digital world situation. Issei nodded in satisfaction. Then we're ready to proceed with the original plan, though our destination has changed. Instead of the Sovereign Council, we'll head directly to the Temple of Convergence. Is that wise? Draconius questioned. The temple's defenses are ancient and unpredictable. Quote, we don't have time for diplomatic channels, Issei replied firmly. If Genai risked a compromised transmission to direct us there, the situation must be critical. He moved to the center of the sanctuary circle, digital energy gathering around his form as he prepared the transit protocol. This crossing will be different from the emergency extraction. Error entering the digital world at a high-security location, so prepare for potential resistance until we can identify ourselves. My power may function differently there. Rias confirmed, Crimson Energy gathering around her hands in preparation. Digital physics will interpret supernatural energy according to its own rules, Issei explained. Your destruction power will likely translate to that. A disruption, effective but less predictable. And my lightning? Akino inquired, practical concerns overriding lingering suspicions. Should convert cleanly. Electrical energy exists in all three realms with similar properties. Issei turned to Kari. Your crest of light will function normally or even be enhanced. The digital world naturally resonates with that particular energy signature. Final preparations complete. Issei extended his hands, palms upward. Form a circle. Physical contact helps maintain group cohesion during transit. As they joined hands, Issei, Kari, Rias, and Akino, Draconius hovering protectively above, the sanctuary stones began to glow with increasing intensity. Digital circuits illuminated beneath Issei's skin, spreading outward to connect with similar patterns that appeared in the ancient stone floor. Sovereign protocol. Sacred transit, he intoned, authority resonating in his voice. Destination. Temple of Convergence. The world around them dissolved into streams of data. Physical reality replaced by the flowing currents of the digital transit stream. Unlike the chaotic emergency extraction, this transition proceeded with ordered precision. Issei's mastery of digital transit evident in the smooth conversion of physical matter to data and back again. They rematerialized on a floating island suspended in an impossible sky where constellations formed recognizable digital code sequences. Before them rose an enormous structure that defied conventional architecture, a temple that seemed to exist in multiple states simultaneously, certain ions appearing to phase in and out of reality at regular intervals. The Temple of Convergence, Issei announced unnecessarily, awe evident in his voice despite years of digital experience. One of the oldest structures in any realm. Rias and Akino stared in undisguised wonder, experiencing their first direct exposure to the digital world's unique physics and aesthetics. Even Kari, veteran of numerous digital adventures, appeared impressed by the temple's grandeur. Where are the guards? Draconius questioned, expanding to full combat size as he scanned their surroundings. The sovereigns maintain constant protection over this site. Issei frowned, activating his D-Nexus to scan the surrounding area. You're right, there should be at least a battalion of Guardian-class Digimon stationed here. The answer came in the form of scattered data particles floating through the air around them, the remnants of defeated Digimon who had not survived to be reconfigured. They were destroyed, Kari whispered, horror in her voice as her D3 registered the fragmented data. Recently, and whoever did it knew exactly what they were doing, Issei added grimly, examining the dissolution patterns. These weren't standard deletions, the core data was extracted before dissolution. Someone harvested their digital essence. Why would anyone? Rias began, but fell silent as a tremendous roar echoed from within the temple. The group tensed, preparing for combat as the temple's massive doors shuddered under some tremendous impact from within. Cracks appeared in the ancient material, golden light spilling through the fissures as something massive attempted to break through. Defensive positions, Issei commanded, digital energy gathering around his form. Whatever comes through that door, be ready for. The doors exploded outward in a shower of fragmented data, forcing the group to scatter for cover. Through the settling digital debris emerged a massive dragon Digimon, golden scowl. Shimmering with embedded digicores and ancient eyes blazing with fury and pain. Fanglongmon, Issei breathed in shock, recognizing the leader of the digital sovereigns despite his clearly injured state. What happened? The sovereign dragon's gaze fixed on their small group, recognition and relief briefly replacing pain. Sage, he rumbled, voice weaker than Issei had ever heard it. You received Genai's message. We came as quickly as possible, Issei confirmed, approaching the injured sovereign with appropriate reverence. What happened here? Where are the other sovereigns? Fanglo. Enjman's massive form shuddered as he settled onto the temple platform, digital blood seeping from multiple wounds that refused to heal normally. Betrayal, he growled, from within and without. Their sovereigns are captured, their powers being drained to fuel the convergence engine. Convergence engine? Kari questioned, stepping forward with her D3 glowing as she attempted to assess the sovereign's injuries. An ancient device housed within the temple, Fanglongmon explained, each word clearly costing him effort. Created before the sundering to maintain harmony between realms. Repurposed now to force reunification. By whom? Rias asked, practical focus cutting through awe and confusion. Fanglongmon's ancient eyes shifted to her, narrowing slightly at the presence of a devil eye. End the digital world before accepting the reality of their unusual alliance. An entity that remembers the time before separation. One who believes the sundering was a mistake to be corrected at any cost. Does this entity have a name? Akano pressed, lightning crackling around her fingers as she scanned for potential threats. Many names across many realms, Fanglongmon replied, pain evident in his labored breathing. In the digital world, he was once known as Chronoman, keeper of temporal integration. In the supernatural realm, legends speak of him as Aternus, the boundary walker. Rias paled visibly. Aternus is a myth, a boogeyman devils used to frighten children. A being supposedly trapped between dimensions as punishment for defying the natural order. Not a myth, Fanglongmon corrected grimly. And no longer trapped, the weakening boundaries allowed his partial escape, enough to gather followers and implement his plan. The hybrids, Issei realized. They're his creations, Ototypes for the merged reality he envisions. Yes, came a new voice, silky and ancient, echoing across the temple platform. Quite impressive deduction, young sage. The group turned sharply toward the shattered temple entrance where a figure now stood, humanoid in basic shape but with features that shifted between human, digital, and supernatural with unsettling fluidity. One moment he appeared as a distinguished elderly man. The next a being of pure digital energy, then a creature of eldritch supernatural power. Chronoman, Fanglongmon growled, attempting to rise despite his injuries. Aternus. Betrayer. Old friend. The entity corrected with what appeared to be genuine sadness. I take no pleasure in your suffering. Had you simply cooperated, your power could have been contributed willingly to the great reunification. Issei stepped forward, placing himself protectively between the wounded sovereign and the ancient entity. Whatever you're attempting stops now. The separation of realms is fundamental to the stability of all three worlds. The being's shifting features settled briefly into an expression of paternal indulgence. Ah, the new sage. So young, so committed to maintaining artificial boundaries you never questioned. His gaze shifted to encompass the entire group. How fitting that representatives of all three realms stand before me at this crucial moment. The digital sage, a chosen child of light, and devil nobility, all carefully manipulated to gather at precisely the right time. You orchestrated the attacks, Kari realized. To drive us together. Of course, Aternus confirmed pleasantly. The convergence requires catalysts, being strongly connected to their respective realms. You three are ideal, especially you, Sage, with your unique resonance with the original dragon Tamer. Draconius growled, positioning himself protectively near Issei. You will not use my partner for your schemes. Too late, Eternus smiled, gesturing casually toward the temple behind him. Your arrival has already initiated the final sequence. Your unique energy signatures are being mapped and integrated into the convergence engine as we speak. Issei's nexus suddenly flared with warning indicators, confirming the entity's claim. He's right. Something's scanning us, extracting pattern recognition data. Without hesitation, Rias unleashed a torrent of destruction energy toward Eternus, the crimson power cutting through the air with devastating potential. Simultaneously, Akeno launched arcs of lightning to complement her king's attack. Eternus made no move to dodge, simply raising a hand as the combined assault struck an invisible barrier and dissipated harmlessly. Impressive power, daughter of Gremory. In the unified reality, such abilities will flourish beyond your current comprehension. We're not interested in your unified reality, Kari declared, her crest of light manifesting physically as she channeled its power. The separation exists for a reason born of fear, Eternus countered, unfazed by her display. The sundering was never meant to be permanent, merely a temporary solution until the realms matured enough for reunification. That's not your decision to make, Issei stated firmly, digital circuits illuminating beneath his skin as he prepared to engage. As digital sage, sworn protector of interdimensional boundaries, I place you under sovereign arrest for violation of the dimensional integrity protocols. Eternus laughed, a sound both beautiful and terrifying in its ancient power. You invoke protocols established to maintain a system I helped create, young sage. Your authority is derived from my own original position. Before Issei could respond, the temple behind Eternus pulsed with blinding light. The entire floating island shuddered as power surged through ancient systems long dormant. It begins, Eternus announced with evident satisfaction. The convergence engine awakens after eons of slumber. Fanglongmon roared in defiance, summoning his remaining strength. Sage, the prophecy, remember the ancient text. What prophecy? Issei demanded, but the sovereign was already channeling his power into one final, desperate act. Golden light erupted from Fanglongmon's wounded form, engulfing Issei, Kari, Rias, and Akeno in a protective barrier as the temple's power surge intensified. Within the cocoon of sovereign energy, Issei felt information downloading directly into his consciousness, ancient knowledge preserved by the digital sovereigns for precisely this emergency. When three become one, seek the sacred geometry. Fanglongmon's voice resonated within their minds as his physical form began to dissolve. The Trinity converges at the point of original harmony. Don't sacrifice yourself, Issei protested, but the sovereign's decision was already made. I transfer my remaining power to you, sage, Fanglongmon declared as his massive body converted to pure energy. Find the sacred keys before the boundaries fall completely. Only they can reverse the convergence. Outside their protective bubble, Eternus watched with narrowed eyes, attempting to disrupt the energy transfer but finding himself unable to penetrate Fanglongmon's final gift. As the sovereign's form disappeared entirely, the golden energy compressed around the four allies, preparing them for emergency transit. This isn't over, sage. Eternus called, voice fading as the transport sequence initiated. You cannot prevent the inevitable. 3 days until completion. Reality dissolved around them once more. But this transit felt different, guided by Fanglongmon's remaining essence rather than Issei's familiar protocols. The digital stream carried them not to another location in the digital world, but somewhere else entirely. When the golden light faded, they found themselves standing in an ancient chamber hewn from stone that shimmered with embedded data patterns. Symbols representing all three realms covered the walls, flowing together in sequences that told the history of their separation and the conditions for reunification. Where are we? Rias asked, recovering first from the disorienting transit. Issei turned slowly, absorbing the knowledge Fanglongmon had transferred in his final moments. The Chamber of Origins, he replied, voice hushed with reverence. Hidden in the space between realms where the original sundering was performed. Kari approached one wall, fingers tracing symbols that resonated with her crest of light. These markings, there, explaining why the realms were separated. Not just why, Issei added, new understanding flowing through him from Fanglongmon's gift. But how? and how they might be properly reunited when the time is right. Which is not now, Akeno surmised, studying the ancient chamber with wary respect. No, Issei confirmed, expression hardening with resolve. Eternus is forcing premature convergence without the necessary preparations. If he succeeds, the result won't be harmonious unification but catastrophic collision. Draconius, who had maintained his connection to Issei through the sovereign-powered transit, examined the chamber with ancient recognition. This place, I know it from the original Dragon Tamer's memories. Yes, Issei agreed, the inherited knowledge clarifying in his mind. This is where it all began, and where we'll find what we need to stop Eternus. He approached the center of the chamber where a pedestal rose from the stone floor, inscribed with symbols from L3 realms intertwined in perfect harmony. As his fingers touched the ancient surface, the chamber illuminated with responsive light, projecting images of 3 distinct objects scattered across different dimensions. The sacred keys, Issei explained as understanding dawned. Artifacts created during the sundering to ensure reunification could only occur when all 3 realms were truly ready. One in each realm, Rias observed. Strategic mind engaging despite the overwhelming circumstances. Hidden and protected by guardians appointed for that specific purpose, Issei confirmed. According to this, retrieving all 3 is the only way to disable the convergence engine once activated. Kari studied the projected images with growing determination. Then our path is clear. We need to find these keys before Eternus completes the forced convergence. 3 keys, 3 days, Akeno noted, pragmatic as ever. Convenient timing, not coincidence, Issei explained. The Converge, NCE process is governed by fundamental mathematical constants relating to the 3 realms. 3 is the baseline unit for interdimensional stability. Rias straightened, natural leadership asserting itself. Then we should divide our efforts. Each of us retrieving the key from our native realm would be most efficient. No, Issei countered firmly. The keys are protected against native ants, a safeguard to prevent unilateral reunification. Each must be retrieved by representatives from the other realms. So I would need to help retrieve the key from the digital or supernatural realm, Kari clarified. Not the human world key. Exactly, Issei confirmed. And based on the guardians described here, we'll need our combined abilities to succeed at each location. As the group studied the projected information, formulating their strategy, Issei felt the weight of Fanglongmon's final gift settling into his consciousness. The sovereign had transferred not just knowledge but responsibility, continuing a legacy that stretched back to the original sundering. 3 days, he murmured, resolve hardening in his amber eyes. 3 keys, 3 realms on the brink of catastrophic collision. Led by the digital sage, Draconius added quietly, as prophesied from the beginning. Around them, the Chamber of Origins pulsed with ancient power, responding to their presence and pure pose as the first phase of a journey that would test not just their abilities but the very foundations of reality itself. The legacy of light and shadow, passed down through countless generations, had found its inheritors at the moment of greatest need. As representatives of 3 realms stood united in the primordial chamber, a new chapter in the eternal balance between worlds had begun. Chapt. R2 End Chapter 3, Code of the Sovereign. Dawn in the digital world bore little resemblance to its human realm counterpart. Instead of gradual illumination from a rising sun, light simply increased in measured increments. As if some cosmic programmer had written an algorithm for daybreak. Data streams painted the sky in luminous ribbons, flowing between floating landmasses that defied conventional physics. The Chamber of Origins, nestled in the dimensional pocket between realms, served as temporary sanctuary while the unlikely allies planned their approach to the looming crisis. Within its ancient walls, holographic displays created from Fanglongmon's final gift illustrated the locations of the 3 sacred keys required to halt Eternus's forced convergence. Issei stood before the central projection, studying the swirling patterns with an expression of concentrated intensity. The knowledge transferred from Fanglongmon remained incomplete, fragments of ancient wisdom rather than comprehensive understanding. Piecing together the scattered information had occupied him through what passed for night in this timeless space. The first key, he announced to his companions, who had gathered at his summons, is located in the digital world's sovereign territory, specifically within the western quadrant under Baihuman's protection. Kari approached the display, her expression thoughtful. Bihuman controls the most militarized section of the digital world. If Aternus has captured the other sovereigns, then their territories are likely compromised, Issei finished, nodding in agreement. But Bihuman's defenses were always the most formidable. There's a chance his quadrant remains partially under sovereign control. Rias, who had adapted to interdimensional travel with remarkable composure, studied the projected map with strategic assessment. These guardian forces, are they loyal to Bihuman specifically or to the Sovereign Council as a whole? An excellent question, Issei acknowledged. Traditionally, each guardian swears fealty to their respective sovereign while maintaining allegiance to the Council's collective authority. If Aternus claims to act with Council authorization, their loyalty would be divided, Draconius concluded, perched on Issei's shoulder in his compact form. Creating opportunity for manipulation, Akeno approached from where he had been examining the chamber's ancient inscriptions. Her initial hostility had gradually shifted to professional assessment as the severity of their situation became apparent. These writings suggest the Western key is specifically keyed to supernatural energy signatures, she observed. Designed to respond to beings from my realm rather than digital entities. Which explains why Bihuman was chosen as its guardian. Issei nodded. Of all the sovereigns, he maintained the closest diplomatic relations with the supernatural realm. Kari had been unusually quiet, her focus on her D3 as it processed data from their surroundings. I'm receiving fragmented communications, she announced suddenly. Digital world frequencies, heavily corrupted, but recognizable. The group gathered ND as she adjusted her device's reception parameters. Broken phrases emerged through static interference. Resistance forces in sector. Bihuman's fortress under siege. Research facility maintains, cannot hold position beyond. Active resistance, Issei translated, hope flickering in his amber eyes. Someone's fighting back against Aternus's forces. Can you trace the transmission source? Rias asked, leaning closer to examine the signal pattern. Kari's fingers danced across her D3's interface with practiced expertise. It's coming from the Digital Harmonic Research Facility in the Western Quadrant. About 80 kilometers from Bihuman's fortress. Issei's expression shifted to surprised recognition. The DHRF. That's where Takenouchi works. Takenouchi? Akeno questioned. Sora Takenouchi. Kari explained, hope brightening her features. One of the original Digi-destined. She became a digital world researcher after university, specializing in cross-dimensional harmonics. If anyone would understand what Aternus is attempting with his convergence engine, it would be Sora, Issei added. And the research facility would have equipment capable of analyzing the sacred keys. Decision crystallized in his expression. Our first objective is clear. We make contact with the resistance at the research facility, gather intelligence on Bihuman's status, then proceed to the Western Fortress to retrieve the key. How do we get there? Rias inquired practically. I assume normal digital transit might be monitored by Aternus's forces. The Chamber of Origins connects to all three realms through pathways that predate the Sundering, Issei explained, approaching a section of wall inscribed with ancient symbols. They're undetectable by conventional methods, but limited in where they can emerge. His fingers traced a specific sequence of symbols, causing the stone to ripple like disturbed water. This will take us to a sanctuary point approximately 20 kilometers from the research facility, close enough for approach but hopefully distant enough to avoid immediate detection. As the wall transformed into a shimmering portal revealing a forested landscape beyond, Issei turned to his companions with uncharacteristic solemnity. Before we proceed, understand that the digital world you're about to enter is not the one Kari knows or that I've served. Under Aternus's influence, familiar rules may no longer apply. Trust nothing that seems too convenient, question everything that seems ordinary. The gravity of his warning hung in the air. For a moment before Rias stepped forward, crimson energy flickering around her hands in preparation. Lead the way, sage, she said simply. We have a world to save. 3 of them, in fact. The digital forest materialized around them as they emerged from the ancient pathway, towering trees composed of data-infused matter that merged organic structure with digital precision. Shafts of filter D-light created algorithmic patterns on the forest floor, while distant sounds mimicked wildlife through mathematically perfect acoustics. Beautiful, Akeno murmured despite herself, violet eyes taking in the impossible landscape. And dangerous, Draconius warned, expanding to his combat form as he scanned their surroundings. The forest's data patterns show signs of corruption, subtle but present. Issei nodded in agreement, his D-nexus projecting a localized map. Aternus's influence is spreading through the digital world's fundamental architecture. We need to move quickly but cautiously. As they began their journey through the dense forest, Kari fell into step beside Issei, her expression troubled. "There's something I don't understand," she said quietly. "If Aternus was originally Chronoman, a digital entity, why would he want to merge the realms? Digital beings have the most to lose if the unique properties of their world are compromised." According to Fanglongmon's memories, Chronoman wasn't originally digital, Issei explained, voice equally low. He existed before the Sundering, when all three realities were unified. When separation occurred, his essence was fragmented across all three realms. So this is personal for him, Kari realized. He's trying to become whole again. At the cost of countless lives across 3 dimensions, Rias added from behind them. Her devil hearing easily catching their conversation. No matter how sympathetic his motivation, his methods make him our enemy. Their discussion halted as Draconius suddenly tensed, head swiveling toward a dense copse ahead. Movement. Multiple signatures approaching rapidly. The group immediately formed a defensive circle, backs to each other as they prepared for potential combat. Issei's digital circuits illuminated beneath his skin, ready to manipulate the surrounding data. Kari's D3 glowed with responsive light, while Rias and Akeno summoned their respective powers. Through the trees emerged a patrol of what appeared to be Guardroman, machine-type Digimon typically used for security operations. But these were clearly corrupted, their normally bronze armor streaked with obsidy and patches that pulsed with malevolent energy. Their eyes, usually glowing green, flickered between digital red and supernatural purple. Hybrid guards, Issei assessed quietly. Digimon corrupted WITH supernatural elements, but cruder than what we faced in the human world. Early prototypes, perhaps. Identifying entities, announced the lead Guardroman in a distorted voice that fluctuated betway. Mechanical precision and eldritch resonance. Unauthorized presence detected. Initiating containment protocols. Diplomatic approach first, Issei murmured to his companions. Then, louder, we CL. Aim rite of passage under Sovereign Code 7 Alpha. Our presence is authorized by emergency protocol. The corrupted Guardroman paused, mechanical heads tilting as they processed this claim. For a moment, it seemed the diplomatic gambit might succeed, until one guard's eyes flared bright purple. Authorization rejected. Sovereign authority superseded by convergence directive. All unauthorized entities to be processed for integration. So much for diplomacy, Akeno remarked, lightning already crackling between her fingertips. The corrupted guards raised their arms in unison, weapon ports open. Ning to reveal modified arsenals that glowed with hybrid energy, neither fully digital nor supernatural, but a corrupted fusion of both. Guardian Barrage, they announced in perfect synchronization, unleashing a volley of energy projectiles toward the group. Draco Shield, Issei commanded, swiping his hand through a complex pattern that materialized a barrier of condensed digital matter. The projectiles struck the shield, causing it to flare but hold. Their attack patterns are predictable, Draconius observed, wings extending in preparation. Standard Guardroman tactical programming with minimal modifications. Which means they're vulnerable to disruption of their command protocols, Issei concluded. Kari, can you interface with their base digital code? Kari nodded, her D3 Ilrea die glowing as she focused on the corrupt guards. I'll try to isolate the corruption pathways. Cover me. As Kari began her technical intervention, Rias stepped forward, crimson destruction energy gathering around her hands. Allow me to provide a distraction, she offered, her aristocratic bearing unchanged despite the tension of combat. With elegant precision, she launched a series of destruct ion spheres, not directly at the Guardroman, but at the trees surrounding them. The digital matter of the forest responded to her supernatural energy in unexpected ways. Rather than simple destruction, the affected trees glitched violently. Their data structure temporarily scrambled. The visual chaos momentarily confused the Guardroman's targeting systems, causing their next volley to go wide. Fascinating, Rias observed with scholarly interest despite the circumstances. My power interacts differently with digital matter than physical substance. Less admiration, more application, Akeno suggested dryly. Before unleashing her own attack, lightning arced from her fingertips, striking the lead Guardroman with precision. The electrical energy coursed through its systems, causing cascading G malfunctions that spread to its connected subordinates. While the hybrid guards struggled with these multi-layered attacks, Issei knelt beside Kari, adding his sage abilities to her efforts. His fingers traced supportive algorithms in the air as she worked to isolate the corruption in the Guardroman's systems. There, Kari announced, satisfaction evident as her D3 projected a purification beam that struck the disoriented guards. I've isolated the foreign code. It's similar to what infected Impmon, but more primitive. The beam washed over the Guardroman, causing them to shudder violent Y's conflicting programming battled for dominance. For a moment, their eyes flickered between corrupted purple and natural green. Something's blocking complete purification, Kari frowned, increasing her D3's output. The supernatural elements, Issei realized. They're anchored differently than digital corruption. He turned to Rias. Can you extract the demonic energy components while Kari handles the digital purification? The crimson-haired devil nodded, shifting her destruction energy to a more precise frequency. Working in tandem, she and Kari systematically addressed the dual nature of the corruption. After several tense moments, the obsidian patches receded from the Guardroman's armor, their eyes stabilizing to their natural green. The lead guard straightened, mechanical voice returning to its proper tone. System recalibration complete. Identifying. Digi-destined signature recognized. Sage authority acknowledged. It turned to Issei. Apologies for hostility. This unit was compromised by unknown protocols. No apology necessary, Issei assured them. You were manipulated. What's the current situation in this sector? We need to reach the Digital Harmonic Research Facility. The Guardroman exchanged mechanical glances before the leader responded. Research facility remains under protected status. Limited communication maintained. Western quadrant largely under enemy control. But resistance forces operate throughout. Its mechanical head tilted slightly. This unit can provide escort to facility perimeter. Beyond that, security protocols unknown. That would be appreciated, Issei nodded. Lead the way. As the Guardroman reorganized into escort formation, Akeno approached Issei with newfound respect in her violet eyes. That was impressively handled, she acknowledged. Using our diverse abilities in complementary fashion rather than brute force. The sage's approach has always emphasized harmony over dominance, Issei replied with a modest shrug. Especially when facing corrupted beings rather than inherently malevolent ones. A philosophy with merit, Rias observed, joining them. Though I notice you're quite capable of direct action when necessary. A ghost of a smile crossed Issei's features. Different situations require different approaches. Flexibility rather than rigid doctrine. As they followed their mechanical escorts through the increasingly corrupted forest, Kari maintained continuous scans with her D3, monitoring for additional threats. The digital landscape around them showed progressive signs of Aternus's influence. Trees occasionally glitching with supernatural energy, terrain features shifting unpredictably, even gravity fluctuating in certain areas. The boundary integrity is worse than I expected, Issei murmured. Studying his D-Nexus readings. Aternus has been manipulating this realm's fundamental parameters for months, perhaps years. Could the damage be permanent? Rias asked, concern evident beneath her composed exterior. Digital architecture is resilient, Draconius answered before Issei could. Self-repairing to a significant degree. But there are thresholds beyond which recovery becomes impossible without external intervention. Which is why the sacred keys are essential, Issei added. They don't just halt the convergence. According to Fanglongmon's memories, they can restore proper boundaries if used correctly. The conversation paused as they crested a ridge, revealing a sprawling complex nestled in a valley below. Unlike the organic digital hybrid nature of the forest, the research facility was aggressively technological, sleek architecture of chrome and light, surrounded by multiple layers of shimmering defense barriers. The Digital Harmonic Research Facility, Issei identified unnecessarily. originally established to study cross-dimensional resonance frequencies after the first Digidestined incidents. Sora transformed it from a monitoring station into a proper research center, Kari added. Pride evident for her fellow Digidestine's accomplishments. It's considered neutral territory under the Digital Accords, protected from factional conflicts. The lead guardroman halted at the ridge. This unit cannot proceed further. Facility defense systems will identify this patrol as potentially compromised despite recalibration. Understood, Issei acknowledged. Return to your standard patrol route. Your assistance has been invaluable. As the mechanical guards departed, the group assessed the approach to the facility. Multiple scanner arrays surrounded the perimeter, and what appeared to be combat-ready Digimon patrolled in precise patterns. Their security posture is elevated, Draconius observed. Defensive barriers at maximum configuration. How do we approach without appearing hostile? Akeno asked practically. Kari raised her D3. My Digidestined signature should be recognized by their systems. I can transmit an approach authorization request. Do it, Issei nodded, but be prepared for additional verification protocols. Under current conditions, they'll be suspicious of any unexpected visitors. Kari configured her device, transmitting an identification signal toward the facility. For several tense moments, nothing happened. Then, a focused scanner beam lanced out from the perimeter, sweeping over their group with precise analytical energy. Multiple unknown signatures detected, announced an automated voice from hidden speakers. One Digidestined confirmed. One digital entity of sovereign-level classification. Two unknown energy patterns inconsistent with registered profiles. Before they could respond, a new voice replaced the automated system, female, authoritative, and vaguely familiar to Kari and Issei. Identify yourselves and state your purpose, the voice commanded. Be advised that defensive systems are targeted on your position. Kari stepped forward. Kari Kamiya, Digidestined of Light. I'm traveling with Issei Hyodo, the digital sage, and allies from the human and supernatural realms. We're here regarding the dimensional crisis and need to speak with Sora Takenouchi immediately. A pause followed before the voice responded, surprise evident despite professional control. Kari, is that really you? Yes, Sora, Kari confirmed, relief coloring her tone. We have critical informa. Chion about what's happening to the boundaries between worlds. Another pause, then, approach the main gate following the illuminated path. Any deviation will be considered hostile. And Kari, it's good to hear your voice. A pathway of blue light appeared on the ground before them, leading down from the ridge toward the facility's main entrance. As they followed this designated route, Rias eyed the defensive systems with professional appreciation. Impressive security architecture, she noted. Some elements resemble supernatural warding designs, adapted for digital implementation. Quote, the facility has always incorporated defensive concepts from multiple realms, Issei explained. Sora believed that understanding other dimensions required embracing their methodologies, not just studying them from a distance. As they approached the main gate, the shimmering barriers parted to create a precisely calibrated opening, large enough for their passage but minimizing potential security vulnerabilities. Beyond the final barrier stood a woman in her mid-20s with auburn hair cut in a practical shoulder-length style. She wore a researcher's uniform modified with defensive components, and her expression conveyed cautious relief. Kari, she greeted, embracing the younger woman briefly before turning her attention to the others. Her gaze lingered on Issei with clear recognition. Sage, I didn't expect to see you away from your boundary maintenance duties. Circumstances have escalated beyond routine maintenance, Takenouchi-san, Issei replied formally. The boundaries Aaron, chi just weakening, they're being deliberately compromised. Sora's expression hardened with confirmation of her fears. We've detected the pattern but couldn't confirm malicious intent versus natural degradation. Her attention shifted to Rias and Akeno, expert eyes assessing their supernatural nature. And your companions, Rias Gremory, heir to the house of Gremory, Rias introduced herself with natural authority. This is Akeno Himahima, my queen. We represent the Devil faction's interests in maintaining dimensional separation. Devils, Sora noted with professional neutrality. That explains the unusual energy signatures. First time I've encountered supernatural beings directly rather than just their energy patterns. First time for many things lately, Kari observed grimly. Ink. Ludding hybrid entities created from fused digital and supernatural matter. Sora's eyes widened slightly. You've encountered the hybrids directly. We've only detected their signatures at boundary disruption points. Encountered and defeated several, Akeno confirmed. Though they appear to be growing more sophisticated with each iteration. Inside, Sora decided, gesturing toward the facility's entrance. Our secure analysis chamber has better shielding against potential monitoring. The situation is more critical than you may realize. As they followed Sora through the facility's sleek corridors, Issei noted the heightened security presence. Combat-ready Digimon stationed at key junctions, researchers working with focused intensity, and evidence of recent defensive engagements in the form of repair work on interior structures. You've been under attack, he observed quietly. Sora nodded without breaking stride. 3 major assaults in the past week. The neutral status of this facility apparently means nothing to whoever is orchestrating this crisis. Aternus, Rias supplied, or Chronoman, depending on which realm's name you prefer. A being that existed before the Sundering. Now attempting to force reunification of all 3 realms. Sora's steps faltered momentarily before she regained her composure. That would explain certain readings we've been getting. GY signatures that don't conform to any known pattern but somehow resonate with aspects of all 3 realms. She led them into a circular chamber at the facility's core, where walls of continuously shifting code formed an impenetrable data barrier. At the center stood a holographic projection system of incredible sophistication, currently displaying real-time analysis of boundary integrity across multiple sectors. The Digital Harmonic Analyzer, Sora introduced the system with justified pride. The most advanced cross-dimensional monitoring technology in existence. It tracks the resonance frequencies that maintain separation between realms. Issei approached the display with professional appreciation, noting the complex calculations and predictive models. This confirms our timeline. Boundary integrity dropping below sustainable thresholds within approximately 68 hours. That's our current model, Sora agreed, manipulating the display to highlight critical failure points. What we couldn't determine was whether intervention was possible at this stage. It is, Kari assured her. But we need to secure 3 artifacts, the sacred keys, to halt and reverse the convergence process. Sora's expression shifted to cautious hope. Sacred keys. There's no mention of such artifacts in any database I've accessed. Their existence was restricted knowledge, Issei explained, interfacing his D-Nexus with the holographic system to transfer relevant data. Known only to the Sovereign Council and, apparently, Aternus himself. As the information transferred, the display reconfigured to show detailed schematics of the 3 keys and their properties. Sora studied the data with rapidly growing understanding, her researcher's mind making connections with impressive speed. Quantum-locked artifacts keyed to specific dimensional frequencies, she translated the technical specifications. Created during the original Sundering as fail-safes should reunification become necessary. Her eyes widened with realization. These could work. The harmonic resonance patterns would counteract the forced convergence if properly synchronized. Exactly, Issei confirmed. But Aternus has already captured most of the sovereigns and their territories. The Western Key under Baihuman's protection is our first objective, but we need current intelligence on the situation at his fortress. Sora's expression grew somber. Baihuman's fortress fell 3 days ago. She manipulated the display to show tactical overlays of the Western Quadrant. The Tiger Sovereign fought to the last. But Aternus brought overwhelming force. Corrupted Digimon augmented with supernatural energy, unlike anything our defenses were designed to counter. The news hit Issei hard. Baihuman had been the most militarily capable of the sovereigns, his defenses considered nearly impregnable. As Baihuman, captured, not deleted, Sora clarified. Our last intelligence suggests Aternus is using the captured sovereigns to power his convergence engine. Their unique energies serve as catalysts for the process. Then the Western Key is likely in enemy hands, Rias concluded grimly. Not necessarily, Sora countered. Adjusting the display again. Before the fortress fell, Baihuman enacted emergency protocols. Our monitoring systems detected a massive energy transfer to a secondary location. She highlighted a mountainous region several kilometers from the fortress. The Sovereign Vault, a failsafe repository designed to secure critical artifacts during emergencies. Hope rekindled in Issei's expression. The vault would have automated defenses keyed to Baihuman's digital signature. If the key is there, then we still have a chance to recover it, Kari finished. But the area will be crawling with Eternus's forces searching for exactly what we're after. Not just searching, Sora added gravely. Based on energy readings, they're systematically testing various approaches to breach the vault's defenses. So far unsuccessfully, but given enough time, which we don't have, Akeno noted practically. How soon can we mobilize toward this vault? Sora considered the tactical situation with veteran experience that belied her researcher's appearance. The direct approach would be suicide. Eternus has established multiple defensive perimeters around the entire region. However, she highlighted an underground passage on the map. The ancient data streams that form the digital world's equivalent of waterways pass beneath the mountain. They're normally too unstable for transit, but I can stabilize them temporarily, Issei finished, understanding her implication. Using the Sage protocols to create a navigable pathway. Exactly, Sora nodded. It would get you within half a kilometer of the vault with minimal chance of detection. The final approach would still be extremely dangerous, but possible with the right capabilities. Her gaze swept over the diverse group, which your unique team composition might just provide. We'll need detailed schematics of the vault itself, Rias noted, strategic mind already formulating approach vectors. And current intelligence on enemy force distribution. I can provide both, Sora confirmed. But there's something else you should know. Her expression grew troubled. Eternus isn't working alone. He's recruited allies from all three realms, beings who believe the Sundering was a mistake or see personal advantage in reunification. We encountered his supernatural allies in the human world, Akeno confirmed. Fallen angels primarily, though some evidence of devil involvement as well. And here in the digital world, he's secured the allegiance of several formerly independent factions, Sora continued. Most notably the Nightmare soldiers under Grand Drachmon's leadership. Issei's expression darkened at this news. Grand Drachmon was always a dangerous wild card, powerful enough to challenge the sovereigns but usually content to rule his dark domain without interference. Until now, Draconius growled. An opportunity to expand his influence across multiple realms would appeal to his ambitions. He's established a command center at the base of the mountain, Sora confirmed, highlighting the location. Coordinating efforts to breach the vault. Any approach will require dealing with his forces. Grand Drachmon is ancient and cunning, Issei warned his companions. A demon lord Digimon with power comparable to high-ranking supernatural entities. Direct confrontation would be problematic. Then we avoid direct confrontation, Rias stated simply. Strategic infiltration rather than frontal assault. Which plays to our strengths, Akeno agreed. A small, diverse team can succeed where conventional forces would fail. As they discussed tactical options, Kari had been studying another aspect of the holographic display, communications traffic throughout the digital world. Her expression suddenly sharpened with recognition. Sora, can you enhance this signal pattern? She requested, indicating a recurring transmission frequency. Sora complied, isolating and amplifying the specified data stream. A familiar pattern emerged, one that brought a smile to Kari's face. That's Tentomon's communication signature, she identified. Izzy's partner. They're alive and active in Sector Epsilon-7. Kushiro established a secondary research outpost there last year, Sora confirmed. We lost direct contact when the sector fell to Eternus's forces, but occasional encrypted transmissions suggest they're conducting guerrilla operations against enemy positions. Can we contact them? Kari asked hopefully. Izzy's technical expertise would be invaluable, especially regarding the sacred keys. Sora's expression turned apologetic. Direct communication would likely be intercepted. But she manipulated the system controls, configuring a highly focused transmission beam. We can send a data packet on their operational frequency. Basic information, coordinates for potential rendezvous. Whether they can respond or act on it would be their decision. As Sora prepared the transmission, Issei approached the section of display showing the Sovereign Vault's defenses. His expression grew increasingly troubled as he studied the complex security protocols. These authentication requirements, he noted, They're specifically keyed to reject digital entities unless accompanied by representatives from other realms. Byhuman designed this with our current situation in mind. Meaning what, exactly? Akeno inquired. Meaning I can't access the vault alone despite my sage authority, Issei explained. The system requires authentication from non-digital sources, specifically supernatural and human signatures that haven't been compromised by digital integration. So Kari and I would need to be part of the authentication process, Rias deduced. Kari's digi-destined status complicates matters. Issei corrected. Her long association with the digital world has integrated certain digital patterns into her fundamental signature. For pure human authentication, his gaze shifted to Sora. The researcher caught his implication immediately. I maintained minimal digital integration despite my research. My signature would register as predominantly human to the authentication systems. And as a devil from a pure bloodline, I would satisfy the supernatural requirement, Rias added, understanding dawning. What about me? Akeno questioned, practical as always. Your unique heritage actually creates an interesting opportunity, Issei replied carefully, aware of the sensitivity surrounding her mixed fallen angel and human origins. Your signature contains elements that could potentially confuse enemy detection systems, creating a distraction if necessary. If Akeno was surprised by his knowledge of her background, she didn't show it, merely nod. Ding with professional acknowledgement of the tactical advantage her dual nature provided. So our team composition for the vault approach would be you, me, and Sora, Rias summarized, looking to Issei for confirmation. With Kari and Akeno providing perimeter security and distraction as needed, he agreed. Draconius would remain in reduced form until absolutely necessary to minimize our detection profile. The dragon rumbled agreement from his position on Issei's shoulder. Logical distribution of capabilities. Sora completed her transmission to Izzy's outpost, then turned to the group with renewed determination. The data streams will be most navigable during the system's maintenance cycle, approximately 3 hours from now. That gives us time to prepare equipment and review detailed tactical information. It also gives me time to establish a secure communication link with my peerage, Rias noted. They should be informed of our progress and positioned to address any supernatural realm developments. The facility's quantum entanglement communicator can establish a cross-dimensional link, Sora offered, temporarily bypassing normal boundary restrictions. As the Group D dispersed to make their respective preparations, Issei found himself momentarily alone with Kari near one of the facility's observation windows. Beyond the reinforced barrier, the digital world's lands. Capes stretched in impossible configurations, floating landmasses, inverted waterfalls of pure data, and distant mountains that occasionally phased in and out of full materialization. It's strange, Kari observed quietly. I've been coming to the digital world since I was 8 years old, but seeing it through your eyes, as the sage, makes it feel like I'm experiencing it for the first time. Issei smiled faintly. Digi-destined and sage perceive this world differently. You see it as a place of adventure and wonder, with dangers to overcome and friends to protect. I see it as an intricate system of interconnected protocols and evolutionary algorithms, with boundary maintenance as the primary concern. That sounds clinical, Kari noted. But I don't think you actually experience it that way. I've seen how you interact with this world. There's genuine connection there, beyond technical understanding. Issei considered this thoughtfully. Perhaps you're right. Years of serving as sage have changed my perspective, but not diminished my appreciation for what makes the digital world unique. He gazed out at the impossible landscape, which is why Eternus's plan is so troubling. Forced convergence wouldn't preserve what makes each realm special, it would homogenize them into something that retains none of their unique qualities. Like trying to mix oil, water, and mercury, Kari suggested. They were separated for good reasons, not just arbitrary division. Exactly, Issei nodded, impressed by her intuitive understanding. The sundering wasn't a mistake to be corrected, it was a necessary evolution that allowed each realm to develop according to its own natural laws. A comfortable silence fell between them as they contemplated the vista beyond the window. After a moment, Kari spoke again, her tone shifting to something more personal. When this is over, assuming we succeed, will you return to your solitary role? Maintaining boundaries in isolation from both digi-destined and everyday human connections. Quote, the question caught Issei off guard. Not because he hadn't considered it, but because he'd been deliberately avoiding such thoughts since their unlikely alliance formed. The sage's traditional role is solitary by design, he replied carefully. Multiple connections create potential vulnerabilities in boundary maintenance protocols. That sounds like doctrine rather than your own belief. Kari observed perceptively. Issei smiled, acknowledging the accuracy of her assessment. Perhaps. Recent events have certainly challenged many aspects of my training. He turned to face her directly. The Sovereign Council emphasized isolation to prevent external influences from compromising my judgment. But working with you, with Rias and Akeno, it hasn't compromised my effectiveness. If anything, our diverse perspectives have created stronger solutions than I might have developed alone. So perhaps the doctrine needs revision, Kari suggested, amber eyes meeting his with quiet challenge. Perhaps, Issei acknowledged, though convincing the sovereigns, assuming we can rescue them, might prove challenging. Centuries of established protocol aren't easily changed. Unless change becomes necessary for survival, came Rias's voice as she approached, having completed her communications with her peerage. Forgive the interruption, but I couldn't help overhearing. Rigid adherence to outdated protocols in the face of evolving threats is a weakness my family has often observed in established power structures. A perspective from Devil nobility, Issei noted without judgment. Where adaptation is valued over tradition. Not exactly, Rias corrected thoughtfully. Devils respect tradition deeply. Our entire society is built on ancient hierarchies and established bloodlines. But we recognize that survival sometimes requires evolution within traditional frameworks rather than blind adherence to methods that no longer serve their original purpose. An interesting middle path, Kari observed, honoring the underlying principles while adapting their application to current circumstances. The conversation paused as Sora approached, now equipped with field gear and displaying the confident bearing of someone with combat experience despite her researcher role. Final preparations are complete, she announced. The data stream access point is ready for stabilization whenever you're prepared to depart. Issei nodded, professional focus returning as he checked his D-Nexus configurations. Akeno, completing perimeter security Revi, W with the facility's defensive coordinator, came Akeno's response via communication link. Their protocols are impressive but optimized for digital threats. I'm providing supplementary countermeasure, S for potential supernatural incursions. Thorough as always, Rias commented with evident pride in her queen's initiative. Equipment distribution is next, Sora continued, leading them toward a specialized preparation room. We've adapted some of our research technology for field application, communication devices that function across dimensional barriers, energy harmonizers to counteract corruption effects, and portable shielding units for emergency protection. The preparation room resembled a cross between advanced laboratory and tactical armory. Sleek equipment lined the walls, while holographic displays demonstrated proper usage techniques. Sora moved through the space with practiced efficiency, selecting specific items for each team member based on their unique abilities and requirements. For you, Sage, she said, presenting Issei with what appeared to be a modified version of his D-Nexus integration module for your existing device. It expands your digital manipulation range by approximately 30% and includes specialized protocols for counteracting hybrid entity signatures. Issei accepted the upgrade with professional appreciation, immediately integrating it with his equipment. The enhanced capabilities appeared as new function indicators in his heads-up display. Kari, this interfaces with your D3, Sora continued, offering a compact attachment. Quote, it masks your Digi-destined signature while maintaining full functionality, useful for avoiding detection by systems specifically hunting for your energy pattern. For Rias and Akeno, she provided errant equipment, devices designed to stabilize their supernatural energies within the digital world's unique physics. These will prevent unintentional disruption of digital matter when using your powers at full capacity, she explained. The digital world interprets supernatural energy through its own parameters, sometimes with unpredictable results. These harmonizers ensure your abilities funct on as intended rather than causing collateral system damage. As they completed equipment integration and final preparations, a facility alert sounded, not the harsh klaxon of immediate danger, but a measured tone indicating incoming information of significance. Proximity sensors activated in Sector GAMMA3, announced the automated system. Unknown entity approaching facility perimeter. Energy signature, analyzing. Classification inconsistent with known parameters. The group exchanged concerned glances before moving quickly to the main monitoring center. The holographic display showed a single figure approaching the facility from the southeast, humanoid in basic configuration but with energy readings that fluctuated between digital and supernatural patterns in chaotic, unstable waves. Another hybrid, Kari questioned, studying the readings. More sophisticated than what we've encountered previously, Issei observed with growing concern. The integration patterns show near-pay, RFECT harmonization between realm energies. Magnifying visual feed, Sora commanded, focusing the facility's external cameras on the approaching entity. The image clarified to reveal a figure that caused Issei's expression to harden with recognition. Humanoid but clearly not human, with aristocratic features marred by digital distortion patterns along one side of his face. He wore formal attire reminiscent of ancient nobility, but the fabric itself seemed to shift between physical matter and data in unsettling patterns. Elumen, Issei identified grimly. One of Aternus's oldest allies. He was a high-ranking member of the Nightmare Soldiers who disappeared during a boundary investigation I conducted last year. He doesn't appear hostile, Rias observed, noting the entity's measured pace and open hands. His approach suggests diplomatic intent rather than combat, which makes him more dangerous, not less, Draconius growled from Issei's shoulder. Elumen was known for Manipu, Lashon and deception long before his association with Aternus. The facility's defensive systems had automatically activated, multiple weapon emplacements tracking the approaching figure while Bari strength increased to maximum capacity. Yet Elumen continued his steady approach, eventually stopping precisely at the outer perimeter boundary. He's requesting communication, Sora noted as a notification appeared on the security panel, specifically asking to speak with the Sage and his interdimensional coalition. He knows we're here, Akeno stated the obvious implication. And our purpose. Issei considered the situation with careful analysis. Allow audio communication only, no visual feed from our side, and maintain all defensive systems at ready status. Sora nodded, configuring the system as specified. A communication window opened, projecting Elumen's voice into the secure chamber. Digital Sage, the hybrid entity greeted, voice carrying unnatural harmonics that meant to resonate on multiple frequencies simultaneously. How disappointing to find you opposing the great reunification. Your predecessor understood the necessity of our work. My predecessor died preventing unauthorized boundary manipulations, Issei replied evenly. Just as I intend to prevent Aternus's forced convergence. A sound that might have been laughter emerged from the communication system, though it contained tonal qualities no human or digital throat could produce naturally. Such confidence, young sage. Yet you operate from fundamental misunderstanding. Aternus doesn't seek destruction but restoration. Return to the natural state before artificial division was imposed. Natural for whom? Kari interjected. Certainly not for the billions of beings who evolved within the respective realms after the sundering. The digi-destined of light, Elumen acknowledged. Your perspective is understandably limited by your brief existence. The harmony of the united realm transcended the petty concerns of individual entities. Enough philosophical debate, Rias cut in, aristocratic authority evident even through audio-only communication. State your purpose in approaching this facility. A pause followed, as if Elumen was reassessing based on this new voice. The Devil Princess herself. How fascinating that ancient enemies find common cause against inevitable progress. His tone shifted to something more formal. I come with an offer from Lord Aternus. Cease your misguided quest for the sacred keys. In exchange, you will be granted privileged positions in the new unified reality, preserving your individual consciousnesses rather than being harmonized into the collective. Harmonized, Akeno repeated, sharp mind catching the ominous implication. You mean absorbed, stripped of individuality. Quote, a crude interpretation of transcendent unity, Elumen dismissed. But essentially correct for those unable to comprehend higher dimensional consciousness. The masses will contribute to the collective harmony while enlightened individuals maintain autonomous function within the new paradigm. And who decides which is which? Issei challenged. Aternus and his inner circle. Those with the wisdom to understand the necessity of reunification, Elumen confirmed without apparent irony. Your unique positions and abilities qualify you for individual preservation, a generous offer given your current opposition. The group exchanged glances, silent communication passing between them. Issei's expression hardened with resolve before he responded. Your offer is rejected, Elumen. The forced convergence will destroy far more than it preserves. We intend to stop it. As expected, Elumen sighed, though the sound carried artificial modulation s. Augusting performed rather than genuine emotion. A pity. Lord Aternus respects your capabilities and would prefer cooperation to confrontation. If Aternus truly respected our capabilities, Rias replied coolly, he would recognize the validity of our opposition rather than dismissing it as misunderstanding. Your philosophical objections have been noted, Elumen stated, tone shifting to something colder. However, practical considerations now take precedence. This facility harbors technology useful to our cause. Its neutral status is hereby revoked. Warning alarms suddenly blared. Rohout the complex as multiple attack signatures registered on the defensive systems. Perimeter breach detected in multiple sectors. The automated system announced. Hybrid entities approaching from all vectors. Defensive systems engaging. Sora's hands flew across the control panels, activating emergency protocols. They used his diplomatic approach as distraction. The main attack force was positioning while we talked. A classic feint, Rias observed grimly. One we should have anticipated. We did, Issei countered, already accessing the facility's defensive grid through his enhanced D-Nexus. Sora, activate contingency protocol Epsilon. The researcher nodded sharply, entering a complex command sequence. Throughout the facility, secondary systems activated, more sophisticated than the standard defenses and clearly designed for precisely this scenario. I anticipated Aternus would target the research facility eventually, Sora explained as holographic tactical displays materialized around them. We've been preparing appropriate countermeasures for months. Outside, the approaching hybrid forces encountered far more resistance than they clearly expected. Automated defense systems emerged from concealed positions, employing specialized countermeasures designed specifically for hybrid entities. Corrupted digital matter was separated from supernatural energy components, causing cascading disruption among the attacking forces. Impressive preparation, Akino acknowledged, monitoring the tactical displays with professional appreciation. But they still outnumber the defensive capabilities significantly. The defenses don't need to win, Issei explained, understanding Sora's strategy immediately. They just need to buy us time. Sora nodded confirmation. He data stream access point is in the secure sublevel. If we leave now, we can reach the Sovereign Vault while Aternus's forces are occupied with this attack. You planned this as a diversion, Rias realized. Sacrificing the facility to ensure our mission proceeds. The facility was always a target, Sora corrected, leading them toward a concealed elevator. But its most valuable asset isn't the technology, it's the data, which has already been backed up to secure locations throughout the digital world. As they descended to the sublevel, the sounds of battle became increasingly distant, muffled by layers of specialized shielding. The elevator opened into a cavernous chamber where swirling currents of pure data flowed through architectural channels reminiscent of ancient aqueducts. The primary data streams, Issei identified, approaching the flowing digital matter with practiced familiarity. The lifeblood of the digital world's information ecosystem. And our path to the Sovereign Vault, Sora confirmed, activating a control panel that extended a narrow bridge over the swirling currents. Once you stabilize the stream, we'll have approximately 20 minutes to navigate E4. The system's natural cycle destabilizes the pathway. Issei moved to the edge of the platform, digital circuits illuminating beneath his skin as he prepared to implement the complex stabilization protocols. Everyone ready. Once we enter the stream, there's no turning back until we reach the exit point. His companions nodded their readiness, expressions reflecting the gravity of their mission and the dangers that lay ahead. With determined focus, Issei extended his hands toward the flowing data, fingers tracing intricate patterns in the air as he spoke the ancient words of the Sage Protocol. By authority of the Sovereign Compact, I command these waters to part. Digital matter, bend to the will of order and create a path through chaos. The swirling data responded immediately. Arents realigning to form a stable tunnel through the otherwise turbulent flow. Unlike physical water, the digital matter maintained perfect structural integrity, creating a passage that defied normal physics. Quickly, Issei directed, stepping onto the newly formed path. The stabilization will hold only while I maintain the protocol. One by one, they entered the data stream tunnel, Issei leading, followed by Sora, Rias, Kari, and Akeno, with Draconius maintaining vigilant watch from Issei's shoulder. Around them, the digital current flowed in hypnotic patterns, carrying fragments of info. Machine that occasionally coalesced into recognizable images before dissolving back into the stream. These are memory fragments, Kari observed with fascination. Pieces of the digital world's histo-rai flowing through its circulatory system. More than memories, Issei explained, maintaining steady concentration on the stabilization protocol. Active data related to current operations throughout the digital world. The stream's function is both archive and active communication network. As if confirming his explanation, a cluster of data fragments converged nearby, momentarily forming a scene. Of battle. Digimon resistance fighters engaging hybrid entities near what appeared to be a mountain fortress. That's happening now, Sora confirmed, checking a portable scanner. Near the southern approach to Bihuman's territory. The resistance is trying to slow Eternus's reinforcements. Can they see us? Rias inquired, studying the flowing data with scholarly interest. No more than fish can see swimmers from a different river, Issei replied. We're moving through the stream but not fully integrated with it. More like a bubble of stable space within the flow. They continued through the swirling data corridor. Occasional tremors suggesting the battle raging at the research facility was intensifying. After several minutes of steady progress, the tunnel began to curve upward, ending toward what appeared to be a solid barrier of concentrated code. The exit point, Sora identified, directly beneath the mountain range housing the Sovereign Vault. The barrier is a security protocol designed to prevent unauthorized access. My sage authorities should override it, Issei noted, though his expression showed concern. Unless Eternus has already corrupted the recognition protocols. As they approached the barrier, Issei adjusted the stabilization pattern, extending his authority to include the security protocols ahead. The dense code barrier rippled in response, recon. Ishin sequences activating as it analyzed his digital signature. For a tense moment, nothing happened. Then, slowly, the barrier parted, creating an opening just large enough for single-file passage. Proceed quickly, Issei directed. Strain evident in his voice as he maintained dual protocols. The recognition sequence is degraded, it won't hold indefinitely. One by one, they passed through the narrow opening, Sora first, followed by Rias and Kari. As Akeno prepared to cross, the barrier suddenly fluctuated, recognition patterns destabilizing as external interference manifested in red warning symbols. Someone's attacking the security protocols, Issei warned, redoubling his efforts to maintain the opening. Akeno, go now. The Devil's Queen didn't hesitate, slipping through the narrowing gap with graceful precision. Issei followed immediately after, the barrier ceiling shut behind him with finality as his stabilization protocol ended. They emerged in a natural cavern illuminated by embedded data crystals that cast blue-green light across ancient stone walls. Unlike the technological sophistication of the research facility, this place radiated primal digital energy, one of the original formation points where the digital world first coalesced from raw data. The catacombs of memory, Issei identified their location, voice hushed with appropriate reverence. One of the oldest structures in the digital world. The Sovereign Vault was built directly above it, drawing on its foundational power. And currently surrounded by Eternus's forces, Sora added pragmatically, adding a scanner that projected a tactical overlay of their surroundings. The surface is heavily patrolled by hybrid entities and corrupted Digimon. Our best approach is through the catacombs, emerging near the vault's secondary entrance. Quote, these tunnels are ancient and likely unstable, Draconius cautioned, expanding slightly to better examine their surroundings. And potentially home to entities that predate even the Sovereigns. Guardians we could reasonably expect to be hostile to Eternus's corruption, Rias noted optimistically. Are corrupted themselves, Akeno countered more pragmatically. We should proceed with caution rather than assuming potential allies. As they began navigating the twisting passages of the catacombs, Issei maintained constant scans with his enhanced D-Nexus, monitoring for both threats and signs leading toward the vault. The ancient tunnels followed no logical pattern, sometimes widening into vast chambers filled with data crystal formations, other times narrowing to passages barely wide enough for single-file movement. The architecture predates standardized digital construction protocols, Issei explained as they traversed a particularly convoluted section. It follows patterns based on early data flow rather than intentional design. Like rivers carving canyons through natural erosion, Kari suggested, finding an accessible metaphor for the alien geometry. Exactly, Issei nodded approvingly. The earliest digital matter simply followed paths of least resistance, creating these organic-seeming formations. Their progress halted as they entered a circular chamber where multiple passages converged. Unlike previous sections, this area showed signs of recent disturbance, scorch marks on ancient walls and fragmented data crystals scattered across the floor. Combat occurred here recently, Draconius observed, scenting the air with draconic senses more acute than any scanning technology. Multiple participants, digital, supernatural, and... He paused, confusion evident. Something else. An energy signature I don't recognize. Scan complete, Issei announced, studying his D-Nexus display with concern. The infamy. Liar energy matches partial readings from the convergence engine. Eternus or his direct agents were here within the past 24 hours. Searching for another way into the vault, Sora deduced. The catacombs connect to multiple access points throughout the mountain. Then we need to move quickly, Rias urged, before they locate the secondary entrance we're targeting. As they prepared to continue, a subtle vibration passed through the chamber, not the violent tremor of combat or collapse, but a rhythmic pulsation that seemed to emanate from the very walls around them. What's that? Kari questioned, her D3 suddenly emitting a soft harmonic tone in response to the vibration. Issei's expression shifted to one of reverent recognition. The sovereign call, Bihuman is communicati, ing through the mountain's foundational protocols. The vibrations intensified, resolving into patterns that Issei interpreted through his sage training. His eyes widened as the message became clear. He's still alive, Issei translated. Captured but not fully integrated into the convergence engine. He senses our presence and is attempting to guide us. The rhythmic pulses shifted, creating a directional indicator that pointed toward one of the less prominent passages leading from the chamber. That route isn't on any of the schematics, Sora noted with concern, checking her mapping device. Because it wasn't created by natural data flow or intentional construction, Issei realized. Bihuman is creating it now, using his remaining connection to his territory's fundamental architecture. Is that safe? Akeno questioned practically. Creating new structures within an ancient system seems potentially destabilizing. Under normal circumstances, extremely dangerous, Issei acknowledged. But Bihuman is a sovereign. His understanding of digital architecture transcends even my sage knowledge. If he's directing us this way despite the risks, then the standard approach must be compromised, Rias concluded. This is his contingency to protect the key. With unanimous if cautious agreement, they entered the newly formed passage, a tunnel that seemed to shimmer into existence just ahead of their progress, stabilizing behind them as they advanced. Unlike the ancient catacombs, this pathway displayed characteristics of sovereign-level digital engineering, precise geometric patterns and stabilization protocols visible to Issei's trained perception. Remarkable, he murmured with professional appreciation. He's rerouting foundational data streams to create a secure transit corridor directly to the vault. The computational complexity required is astounding, especially while under Eternus's suppression. The Sovereign's power has always been underestimated, Draconius noted with draconic pride. Even by those who serve them. The passage curved upward at an increasing angle, spiraling through the mountain's interior toward their destination. After several minutes of ascent, the tunnel abruptly ended at what appeared to be a solid wall of densely packed code, similar to the security barrier they had encountered in the data stream, but far more sophisticated. The vault's secondary entrance, Sora identified, scanning the barrier with her equipment. But the authentication protocols are active. We'll need to implement the triple realm verification sequence. Issei nodded, stepping forward to examine the intricate security system. Byhuman designed this specifically to prevent access by corrupted digital entities. It requires simultaneous authentication from pure representatives of all three realms. Following Sora's guidance, they positioned themselves in a triangular formation before the barrier, Issei representing the digital world despite his human origin. Sora as pure human representative, and Rias embodying supernatural authority. The authentication process will scan your fundamental essence, Issei explained. Looking beyond physical form to the realm energy that defines your core nature. It's painless but intimate. The system will perceive aspects of your being normally hidden from external observation. If it means accessing the key, I have no objections. Rias stated simply. Privacy concerns seem rather trivial compared to dimensional collapse. With nods of agreement from all participants, Issei initiated the authentication sequence. Placing his palm against a specific section of the barrier. Sora and Rias mirrored his action, completing the triangular circuit. The barrier responded immediately, illuminating, with cascading patterns that flowed between their contact points. A sensation like gentle electricity passed through their bodies as the system conducted its analysis, not painful as Issei had promised, but distinctly unusual. As if their very essence was being carefully examined layer by layer. After several seconds of increasingly complex scanning patterns, the barrier pulsed with three distinct colors simultaneously, blue for digital, green for human, and crimson for supernatural. The colors merged at the center, forming a perfect white light that expanded outward as the barrier dissolved completely. Beyond lay a chamber that defied conventional architecture, a perfect sphere carved from what appeared to be single-piece digital crystal, its interior surface inscribed with countless Proto-Setian formulas in ancient digital script. At the center, suspended in midair, floated a small object that radiated power disproportionate to its size. The Western key, Issei identified unnecessarily. Awe evident in his voice despite his extensive digital experience. Unlike the technological sophistication they might have expected, the key appeared almost primitively simple, a tetrahedron of transparent crystal containing swirling energy patterns that shifted between blue, green, and crimson in perfect harmonic cycles. Ancient symbols adorned each face, representing fundamental concepts that predated modern digital language. "It's beautiful," Kari whispered, her crest of light responding to the key's presence with sympathetic illumination. "And incredibly powerful," Rias added, her devil senses perceiving aspects invisible to normal observation. "I can feel its connection to the fundamental structure of reality itself." As they approached the floating artifact, a final security measure activated, a projection of Byhuman himself, transparent and clearly pre-recorded, but impressively lifelike in detail. "If this message activates, the Western Quadrant has fallen," the projection began. The Tiger Sovereign's imposing presence commanding attention despite its intangible nature. The sacred key remains protected by protocols that cannot be circumvented through force or corruption. Only authorized retrieval by representatives of all three realms will succeed. The projection turned, seeming to look directly at Issei despite being recorded before their arrival. "Sage, if you have reached this chamber, the situation has become dire indeed. The key responds only to specific harmonic frequencies representing perfect balance between realms. Your unique position as mediator makes you the natural conduit for this harmonization." Byhuman's projection shifted to address the entire group. The sacred keys were created as both fail-safe and foundation. They can prevent forced convergence, but also establish proper reunification when all three realms achieve true evolutionary harmony. The distinction is crucial, timing that respects the natural development of each realm, rather than arbitrary imposition of unity. The projection began to fade, but Byhuman's final words resonated clearly. "Trust not in power alone but in balance between forces." The original sage understood this truth. Remember his legacy when facing the convergence. As the projection disappeared completely, the floating key descended slowly until it hovered at exactly the center of their triangular formation. "What now?" Sora questioned, looking to Issei for guidance. "Now I serve my function as sage," he replied, stepping forward with calm determination. As mediator between realms, Issei extended his hands, palms upward on either side of the floating key but not touching it directly. "Sora, Rias, place your hands beneath mine. We create the circuit that will authorize removal of the key from its protection field." As they followed his instruction, A resonance began to build between them, the unique energies of their respective realms flowing through Issei's mediating presence. To create a harmonized frequency that matched the key's internal patterns. Perfect balance, Issei murmured as the resonance intensified. Not dominance of any single realm, but harmonious cooperation between all three. The key responded to this balanced energy, its protective field dissolving as it descended into Issei's waiting hands. The moment of contact sent a surge of power through all T.Re participants, not painful but intensely clarifying, as if momentarily perceiving reality from a higher dimensional perspective. Incredible, Rias breathed as the sensation faded, leaving behind a crystalline clarity of thought. For a moment, I could see everything. The keys provide glimpses of the original unified reality, Issei explained, carefully securing the artifact in a special IZED containment unit from his equipment. Brief access to perspective beyond our normal dimensional limitations. Is that what Eternus experiences constantly? Sora wondered. If so, his obsession becomes more understandable, if no less dangerous. Understanding doesn't justify destruction, Kari stated firmly. No matter how transcendent the perspective. With the key secured, they turned their attention to exfiltration, now potentially more complicated given the likelihood that Eternus would detect the key's removal from its protection field. The return path through the catacombs remains our best option, Sora assessed. Consulting her tactical scanner, surface activity has increased significantly. Eternus is clearly aware something is happening within the mountain. Can Mon continue to maintain the secure corridor? Rias inquired. Issei checked his D-nexus, frowning at the readings. The sovereign energy signatures are fluctuating. I believe creating and maintaining. Our access path has depleted Baihuman's already constrained resources. Then we proceed with standard infiltration protocols, Akeno suggested practically. Using natural terrain and detection countermeasures rather than specialized digital architecture. As they prepared to exit the vault, a tremendous tremor shook the chamber, far more violent than anything they had experienced previously. Perfect crystalline walls briefly distorted, digital matter responding to some massive external force. That wasn't natural seismic activity, Issei stated with growing concern, checking his scanning equipment. Energy signature consistent with high-level supernatural attack combined with digital disruption. They're attacking the mountain directly, Sora translated grimly. Brute force approach now that subtle methods have failed. Quote, another tremor, stronger than the first, confirmed her assessment. Fracture patterns appeared in the previously flawless crystal walls, spreading with alarming speed. The vault's structural integrity is compromised, Issei announced, already moving toward the entrance. We need to evacuate immediately. They rushed back into the passage, only to find Chi destabilizing rapidly, Baihuman's carefully constructed pathway dissolving as the Sovereign's remaining energy was diverted to more critical systems. Sections ahead had already collapsed, blocking their planned escape route. Alternative exit strategy required, Draconius noted with draconic calm despite the deteriorating situation. Issei accessed the mountain's structural schematics through his D-nexus. Searching for viable alternatives. There's a maintenance shaft approximately 30 meters below our position. It connects to an emergency evacuation system established during the vault's construction. Can we reach it through the collapsing passage? Kari questioned, steadying herself against the wall as another tremor shook the mountain. Not directly, Issei admitted. But I can create a temporary data bridge between here and the shaft entrance. He turned to his companions with unflinching resolve. It won't be stable enough for conventional crossing. We'll need to digitize and reform, essentially converting to data streams for transit then reconstructing at the destination. Like digivolving? Kari asked, familiar with the concept through her partner Digimon. Similar principle, different application. Issei confirmed. For Digidestined and Digimon, the process is natural. For the rest of us, he glanced at Rias and Akeno. It will be disorienting. Your supernatural composition will resist full digitization, creating a somewhat uncomfortable transition. Discomfort is preferable to being crushed in a collapsing mountain, Rias noted pragmatically. Whatever is necessary, sage. With their agreement secured, Issei began the complex process of establishing a data bridge between their position and the evacuation shaft. Digital circuits illuminated more roamingly beneath his skin as he channeled significant power into the specialized application of his sage abilities. Bridge established, he announced after several seconds of intense concentration. Temporary but functional. I'll convert each of you sequentially, then myself. Kari first, as her digi-destined nature will make the transition easiest. Kari stepped forward without hesitation, her trust in Issei evident. He placed his palms on either side of her face, not quite touching, as digital energy flowed between them. Digital conversion protocol. Digi-destined harmonic, he intoned, T. He formal words activating specific algorithms in the surrounding architecture. Kari's physical form shimmered, gradually dissolving into organized data particles that maintained her fundamental pattern while converting to transmissible format. The process completed in seconds, her digitized essence immediately flowing along the bridge Issei had created toward the destination point. Sora next, Issei directed, repeating the process with the researcher. Her conversion proceeded slightly slower, requiring additional calibration due to her predominantly physical nature, but completed successfully. Rias and Akeno followed, their supernatural composition creating visible resistance to the conversion process. Crimson energy flared around Rias as her devil nature temporarily fought the digitization before Issei's carefully calibrated protocols established proper harmonic resonance. Akeno's dual heritage created unique patterns during conversion, her data stream displaying both devil and Alan angel characteristics in fascinating harmonic counterpoint. With his companions safely converted and transmitted, Issei prepared for his own transition, more complex due to his need to maintain the bridge until his conversion completed. Your turn, partner, Draconius rumbled, expanding to full combat form. I'll provide cover and follow. Another violent tremor shook the mountain as Issei initiated his self-conversion protocol. Through the destabilizing passage, they could hear sounds of approaching combat, explosive impacts and the distinctive resonance of hybrid entities moving through digital matter. They've breached the upper levels, Draconius warned, positioning himself between Issei and the potential threat. Hurry! Issei's conversion accelerated, his physical form dissolving into data streams that maintained connection to the bridge even as they prepared for transit. Just as the process neared completion, a section of wall exploded inward, revealing a corrupted Ion of Griffonman, one of Baihuman's former guardians now twisted by Aternus's influence. The key. The corrupted guardian roared, launching itself toward Issei's dissolving form. Draconius intercepted with devastating precision. Draconic claws wreathed in purifying flame as he engaged the corrupted guardian. Go, he commanded Issei. Complete the transit. The last of Issei's physical form converted to data, flowing along the bridge toward safety even as Draconius battled the corrupted guardian. The dragon's own digital nature allowed him to follow moments later, his combat form compress into essential data patterns that raced along the rapidly deteriorating bridge. At the destination point, Issei's consciousness reformed first, digital matter reconstructing his physical body within the evacuation shaft. His companions had already completed reconversion, Kari and Sora assisting Rias and Akeno through the disorienting aftermath of their first digitization experience. Draconius arrived last, data stream compressed to bare minimum as he narrowly escaped the collapsing bridge. His reconversion occurred with practiced efficiency, the dragon resuming his miniature form to conserve energy. Everyone intact? Issei questioned, conducting quick visual assessment of his companions. Functional, if somewhat disconcerted, Rias replied, straightening her clothing with aristocratic dignity despite the circumstances. An interesting experience I'm in no hurry to repeat. The evacuation system is still operational, Sora reported, examining a control panel embedded in the shaft wall. It can transport us to a secure exit point approximately 3 kilometers from the mountain. Activate it, Issei directed, checking the key's containment unit to ensure it had survived the transition intact. Aternus's forces will have detected the key's removal by now. Our window for clean extraction is rapidly closing. Sora initiated the evacuation sequence, causing sections of He shaft wall to reconfigure into a transport capsule. Unlike the organic-seeming architecture of the catacombs, this system displayed precise engineering typical of Baihuman's methodical approach to security. Transport initiated, Sora announced as the capsule sealed around them. ETA to extraction point approximately 4 minutes. As the capsule accelerated through hidden tunnels within the mountain, Issei utilized the momentary respite to check the tactical situation through his D-Nexus. The display confirmed their worst fears: massive mobilization of Eternus's forces throughout the western quadrant, converging on their position from multiple vectors. "They know exactly what we've taken," he informed the others grimly. "And they're committing significant resources to its recovery. Can we reach a digital transit point before interception?" Kari asked, her D3 similarly displaying tactical information from its more limited sensors. "Unlikely," Issei admitted. "The nearest STA-BLE transit point is 7 kilometers from our extraction location. Based on enemy movement patterns, we'd encounter at least 3 blocking forces before reaching it. Then we fight through," Akano suggested, lightning already crackling around her fingertips in anticipation. "Against overwhelming numbers specifically prepared for our capabilities?" Rias questioned, strategic mind analyzing options. "Direct confrontation presents unfavorable odds." "There's another option," Sora interjected, studying her equipment with growing excitement. "I'm detecting a familiar signal near our extraction point. Tentomon's transmission frequency, stronger than before in implementing recognition protocols." "Issei found us," Kari translated, hope returning to her expression. "Or at least found our general location. If Kushiro has established a presence nearby," Issei reasoned, "he likely has transportation capabilities. Potentially even a portable transit device." Their speculation ended as the transport capsule slowed, approaching its designated extraction point. Final scans showed the immediate area clear of enemy forces, though tactical displays indicated rapid approach from multiple directions. "We have perhaps 7 minutes before first contact with pursuit forces," Issei assessed as the capsule doors opened to reveal a concealed cavern with a narrow exit tunnel visible at the far end. "Let's hope Izumi-san's reputation for punctuality applies to rescue operations." As they emerged from the transport system, a familiar electronic buzzing sound echoed from the exit tunnel, followed by the appearance of a distinctly insectoid Digimon whose red exoskeleton and large green eyes were immediately recognizable to Kari. "Tentomon!" she exclaimed with genuine delight. Kari Kamiya confirmed. The insect Digimon responded in his characteristic mechanical voice. "And companions. Identification protocols indicate digital sage, human researcher, and 2 supernatural entities of devil classification." He hovered closer, multifaceted eyes examining them with obvious curiosity. "Fascinating combination. Issei will be pleased his calculations regarding your probable extraction point were accurate." "Where is Kushiro?" Issei inquired, professional courtesy not quite masking the urgency of their situation. "Maintaining operational security at our transport," Tentomon replied efficiently. "This way, quickly. Enemy movement patterns suggest converging forces will reach this location in approximately 6 minutes, 27 seconds. Without further discussion, they followed Tentomon through the exit tunnel, emerging onto a forested slope with dense vegetation providing natural concealment. The insect Digimon led them along a carefully plotted route that utilized terrain features to minimize detection probability. After several minutes of rapid movement, they reached a small clearing where a remarkable vehicle awaited, part mechanical transport, part living Digimon. With elements of both perfectly integrated in Kushiro Izumi's unmistakable engineering style. Beside the vehicle stood a young man with spiky red hair and intensely focused eyes that brightened with scientific curiosity as he observed their approach. Despite the dangerous circumstances, he carried himself with the calm assurance of someone accustomed to crisis management. Theoretical probability of mission success was 47%, he greeted them, adjusting portable scanning equipment with practiced efficiency. Actual success confirms my hypothesis regarding the sage's capacity to influence statistical outcomes. Fascinating data point. Good to see you too, Issei, Kari replied with affectionate exasperation at his characteristic greeting. Kushiro Izumi, Issei acknowledged formally. Your intervention is well timed and appreciated. Logical response to detected activity patterns, Issei replied matter-of-factly. Sora's transmission contained sufficient data markers to triangulate probable objectives and extraction vectors. His attention shifted to the containment unit secured at Issei's side, eyes widening with immediate recognition of its significance. You secured a primary artifact. Excellent. Vehicle has specialized containment field prepared. Primary artifact. Rias questioned as they boarded the unusual transport. His terminology for the sacred keys, Issei explained. Based on theoretical research rather than direct knowledge. Theoretical until now, Issei corrected, initiating the vehicle's launch sequence. Design characteristics. Match predictive models based on ancient documentation fragments. Purpose still theoretical but consistent with cross-dimensional stabilization hypotheses. As the vehicle lifted from the forest floor, hovering on technology that seemed to blend mechanical engineering with digital manipulation, Tentomon reported from his scouting position. Enemy forces approaching from multiple vectors. Estimated interception in 2 minutes. 43 seconds. Sufficient temporal margin, Issei stated confidently, hands dancing across the vehicle's control interface. Transit protocols initializing. Dimensional coordinates locked. You have transit capability, Issei questioned, professional interest momentarily overriding tactical concerns. Limited but functional, Issei confirmed. Derived from research into sovereign gate technology. Single-use application due to power requirements, but sufficient for current necessities. The unusual vehicle accelerated upward, clearing the forest canopy. As energy began to coalesce around its exterior. Below, they could see the first wave of Aternus's forces emerging from the treeline, hybrid entities of increasingly sophisticated design accompanied by corrupted Digimon of concerning power levels. Transit initiation in 10 seconds, Issei announced calmly despite the rapidly approaching threat. Destination. Secure Research Outpost, Sector Epsilon-7. As the pursuing forces launched their first attacks, energy projectiles of corrupted digital supernatural fusion, the vehicle's defensive shields activated, absorbing the impacts with remarkable efficiency. Transit initiated, Issei stated as swirling energy enveloped the vehicle completely. Reality dissolved around them for the third time that day, though this transition felt different from either Issei's controlled protocol or Fanglongmon's sovereign power. Issei's method employed mathematical precision rather than inherent authority, calculating exact dimensional coordinates through pure computational brilliance rather than established pathways. When reality reformed, they found themselves hovering above a completely different landscape, a mountainous region where technological structures had been seamlessly integrated with natural formations, creating a hidden outpost invisible to casual observation. Transit successful, Issei announced unnecessarily as the vehicle descended toward a concealed landing platform. Welcome to Epsilon Outpost, currently the most secure operational resistance base in the digital world. As they disembarked onto the platform, Issei found himself reassessing their situation with cautious optimism. The first sacred key had been secured against significant odds, and they had unexpectedly gained valuable allies with unique capabilities. Yet weight of responsibility remained heavy on his shoulders. 2 more keys awaited in different realms, each likely protected by increasingly difficult challenges. And Aternus, now aware of their specific objective, would certainly escalate his efforts to prevent their success. The code of the sovereign that had guided his actions as digital sage seemed simultaneously more vital and more constraining than ever before. Balance between realms remained his fundamental purpose, yet achieving that balance now required actions far beyond the boundaries of traditional sage protocols. As Issei led them into the secure facility, Issei felt the sacred key's presence in its containment unit, power beyond conventional understanding, created at the dawn of dimensional separation. 1 piece of the puzzle secured, 2 remaining to be found. The race against dimensional collapse continued, with all 3 worlds hanging in the balance. Chapter 3 End. The End. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Remember to subscribe and like this video. See you in the next video.